Part 190. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1894. Within the starry sky, the entire huge energy circle is flying forward. The methods of the Zerg Queen can be said to make all the galaxy-level beings feel incredible. Even Jia Yan is no exception. This power is very much like some kind of brainwave force pushing it, but it is not brainwave force. Jia Yan felt the situation outside and was extremely suspicious. Logically speaking, Domain Lord level power should also belong to the galaxy level. He shouldn't be much more powerful than Jia Yan and the others. But the reality is that it is really difficult for Jia Yan and the others to understand the power exerted by the Zerg Queen. This can only show that the Zerg Queen is much more powerful than Jia Yan and the others. After all, one of the two parties is a junior and middle-level galaxy creature, and the other is a territory lord. Even though they are also nominally intermediate-level galaxy creatures, everyone recognizes a territory lord level, which shows that territory lords are different from ordinary galaxy mid-level creatures. It's a completely different existence. As for domain lord creatures, compared to other junior and middle-level creatures, they seem to have different feelings of power, at least to Jia Yan. She can push this energy circle forward. Can she also use her own power to create such a huge fighting space? Jia Yan was a little crazy thinking about how terrifying the Territory Lord was. He had long thought about how powerful the Territory Lord would be, but after actually understanding how terrifying the Zerg Queen was, he felt a little ridiculous about his lack of imagination. The Domain Master is the Domain Master after all. You guys, it's not that I didn't want to tell you about the power of the Territory Lord before, it was just because I was afraid that you would be too ambitious. Now that you have seen my ability, I might as well talk to you. Suddenly, the voice of the Zerg Queen rang in Jia Yan's ears. Jia Yan raised his eyebrows. The Zerg Queen obviously said this to a certain group of people, including him. It is very likely that this group of people have good strength and talent, so the Zerg Queen explains to them like this. The other group of galaxy-level creatures cannot get explanations from the Zerg Queen at all. You happen to be on a journey. Listening to me talk about energy can help ease your mood during the journey. The Zerg Queen began to explain slowly. While she was explaining, the energy circle was still moving rapidly. This shows that the Zerg Queen's energy control at this time has not reached her limit, or it is far from her limit. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so relaxed and happy. The energy power I am using now cannot actually be regarded as my own power, because the power of technology plays a big role in it. Of course, without my control, such a huge energy circle would, it is almost impossible to promote it purely through the power of technology. And my role in it is mainly that of a rudder, which requires my strength to guide, and then push a jet device in the energy circle to guide it to the right place. This requires more than just strength, requires a fine grasp of power, which I dare say many mid-level galaxies cannot achieve. Actually, ordinary mid-level peak creatures in the galaxy also have the opportunity to create such a large energy circle, but it is simply impossible to maintain it. The difference between the power of the Domain Lord and the mid-level creatures is that we can live forever, and that is to say, our resilience is much more terrifying than that of ordinary mid-level creatures in the galaxy. It is not only the recovery of energy, but also our body's resilience to trauma is much more terrifying than that of ordinary mid-level creatures in the galaxy. According to the general definition of galaxy level, we are basically equivalent to immortal creatures. What the Zerg Queen said shocked not only the other galaxy-class people around her, but even Jia Yan was also shocked. Immortal. This is amazing. As an evolved beast, Jia Yan's resilience is also terrible, but based on current observations, it is still much worse than the Zerg Queen's method of replenishing her strength while flying. In other words, the Domain Lord creature is more terrifying than his resilience. Of course, this does not mean that when Jia Yan reaches the Domain Lord level in the future, he will have the same resilience as others. This kind of advantage will be a huge advantage at any level. Immortal, she is at the Domain Lord level now, so she has this effect, but what if I reach the Domain Lord level? Will she be more immortal than the average Domain Lord? Jia Yan was thinking about this. As a being with a resilience advantage, he suspected that his resilience advantage would be even greater after he reached the Domain Lord level. If others are immortal, then his recovery will be faster than others. Even if it is just a little bit, it will probably be a huge advantage in the battle between Domain Lords. Naturally, Jia Yan would not speak out his thoughts. Even if he did, he would probably only get the scorn of the Zerg Queen. For her, among the galaxy-level creatures present, there are many who may reach the Domain Master, and Jia Yan is just one of them. And even if they can reach it, she does not believe that Jia Yan will have any advantage. After all, she herself is the Domain Master. Lord, she is very sensitive to the cognition of living things. At least until now, she only thinks that Jia Yan is a material that can be made, and she doesn't think he is very powerful. The most important thing is that the Star Core was given to Jia Yan last time, but he wasted it on improving combat effectiveness. For the Zerg Queen, this was like a mistake in choice, so the recognition of Jia Yan appeared. A little unsure. Fortunately, she still thought highly of Jia Yan, but this time the lecture was no longer addressed to Jia Yan alone, but sounded in the ears of several high-ranking galaxy-level creatures, which was equivalent to an open class. The energy and resilience of Domain Lord creatures are endless, and will have a bonus effect on all battles, flights, and explorations. Therefore, you ordinary galaxy-level people may not know that most of this vast galaxy is part of it was discovered through exploration by our territory lords, at least that's what the ancient books say. What the Zerg Queen said made Jia Yan startled again. That's right, the Domain Master's biological energy is endless, so he has the endurance to explore the universe. It seemed that some galaxy-level creature who was listening to the lecture asked something, and the Zerg Queen continued. You are right to ask. Let me tell you that from the records in the center of the Milky Way, it is recorded that many creatures in the Milky Way were born precisely because of the exploration of the ancient Domain Lord creatures. Although the territory lords may not have wanted to spread life at that time, but they actually did it, so many lives are thanks to the territory lords at that time. And it is precisely because the territory lord creatures are different from ordinary galaxies. Intermediate level, the strength is not like ordinary galaxy mid-level, so, I don't know when, the territory lords were called a new title, called Territory Lord. The Zerg Queen talked about the origin of the name of the territory lords and the contributions of the territory lords. Of course, this does not mean that the high-level galactic beings who are stronger than the Domain Lords, and even the galactic peak creatures, have no effect on the exploration and development of the galaxy. It is just because these two kinds of existence are too few. Every period, it doesn't matter whether there are creatures at the top of the galaxy, so even if their contribution is there, it is definitely not as big as imagined. Even though they were already the most terrifying group of beings among the powerful people in the galaxy at that time, their number is not large enough after all. Territory lords are the real mainstay of the galaxy. It is said that the center of the Milky Way is where the territory lords slowly began to gather. It can be said that every territory lord will go to the center of the Milky Way for a tour, and even more of them will stay there forever, either for life and cultivation. Or, he will be killed by other domain lords, or even more terrifying high-level galaxy powerhouses. Kill the domain lord. Hearing these words, Jia Yan and the other Zing-level people were all shocked. If these words had not come from the mouth of the Zerg Queen, they would certainly not believe it. Territory lord creatures are absolutely terrifying existences in the Milky Way. They are often in one place and are likely to rule a large area of the starry sky. Such a noble creature would die when it ran to the center of the galaxy. It's not the queen of the Zerg. Why are the other domain owners so warlike? Don't be surprised. Territory lords are not special creatures. We also have joys and sorrows, and we also have things we want. Even what we want is more than you, and it is harder to get. Going to the center of the galaxy, because there are so many resources there and the chance of finding items that can improve our strength is higher, so we flock to it and even stay there forever, because even if we reach the high level of the galaxy, it is still more suitable in the center of the galaxy. Cultivation. Of course, if you reach the high level of the galaxy, only a very small number of creatures in the entire galaxy can threaten your life. At that time, you will have almost no natural enemies. Hearing this, Jia Yan couldn't help it. He asked, "Your Majesty, apart from high-level ones, are there any creatures at the top of the galaxy in today's galaxy?" Jia Yan really wants to know whether the highest-end combat power in the galaxy has reached the peak of the galaxy, and how terrifying the peak of the galaxy is. Unfortunately, his question was not answered. The Queen of the Zerg had some regretful words, and said lightly, "I don't know if there is a galaxy-level peak, so I want to go to the central area of the Milky Way to find out the answer for myself." Of course, if there is a galaxy-level peak, then there are definitely not many. According to my estimation, the entire Milky Way can only support 1 or 2, and no more than 3, galaxy summits. If there are any more, the balance of the entire galaxy will be broken. After all, the creatures at the galaxy summit are very important to us. To the Territory Lord, they are like gods, so terrifying that they are beyond imagination. Listening to the words of the Zerg Queen, it seemed that another creature must have asked something, so the Zerg Queen continued to answer. "You ask me, how powerful are high-level and peak creatures? Haha, it is actually difficult for me to answer this question, because I have never seen high-level or peak creatures in the galaxy, even at this point. Some of you may have more knowledge than me. So I can't answer. It's just that as a domain master creature, I can roughly see the power of high-level creatures. I will use this metaphor. Look at me. The feeling is just like the feeling I feel when watching high-level creatures. As for the peak powerhouse, I can't guess, but I once read in ancient books that a peak powerhouse took action and killed almost all the high-level creatures in the galaxy at that time. In other words, a peak creature can rival all the high-level galaxies in the entire era, which can be said to subvert the existence of the entire galaxy. When Jia Yan heard this, his whole heart trembled. I had known for a long time that there was a huge gap between the galaxy level, but I didn't expect that the gap would be so big. He had somewhat figured out before that the galaxy-level creatures were not so much one level, but rather had a large gap in strength and too few in number, so he divided the superpowers who should have been divided into many levels into one level, so that it's convenient for everyone to call you. So in fact, there is definitely a huge gap in strength between the galaxy-level beings. Just like they look at the Domain Lord-level Zerg Queen, they look at gods, while the Zerg Queen looks at high-level creatures and peak creatures. It's more like looking at a god. So it seems that my arrival at the primary level of the galaxy is just a starting point, right? It's ridiculous. I was still so arrogant at the beginning, thinking that after reaching the galaxy level, there would be nothing in the entire galaxy that could threaten me. Now I see, if the Zerg Queen wants to kill me, she can kill me with just 1 or 2 moves. Even if I reach the middle level of the galaxy, it will be useless. If I don't reach the Domain Lord level, there is no match for a creature like the Zerg Queen. Find it? Shuyuan. There is such a big gap between the elementary creatures and the mid-level Zerg Queen, so you can already imagine how big the gap is between the Zerg Queen and the high-level creatures, or the more terrifying creatures at the top of the galaxy. No wonder, the Zerg Queen's obsession is to go to the center of the galaxy. Fortunately, I got out of the Orion arm and joined the Zerg Queen. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult for me to go to the center of the galaxy and make my way there by myself. Jia Yan sighed slightly, and then felt lucky that he had made the decision to travel with the Zerg Queen. If he didn't get out of that little quagmire, he might still be in the arms of Orion and become the overlord of his own little quagmire, instead of being like this now, facing a sea with many terrifying monsters, but he himself also had the opportunity to become the most terrifying monster. This advance is because the distance is extremely far. You are also the leaders of your respective star fields, and you are also familiar with technology and remote exploration technology. You should know that the longer the voyage, the more likely it is that problems will arise. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1895. With the technology or travel methods you have, it is very difficult to travel 10,000 light years. It is almost impossible to travel 20,000 light years. With such a huge energy circle this time, we want to travel tens of thousands of light years. If it were not for the large-scale technology of the Zerg, it would be almost impossible to match my strength, so in this process, you should try not to cause too much fluctuation in your practice, especially if some people want to be promoted. Please bear with me. This whole process takes about a year. If you want to be promoted, just give it to me for a year. You know who I am talking about. After the Zerg Queen answered some questions, she suddenly turned to talk about this matter. Although everyone didn't hear her name anyone, they all focused on the first-class area of the palace where Jia Yan was. Of all the people present, or in other words, including those at the galaxy level outside, the only person who might be promoted within a year is Jia Yan. The galaxy level is not just cabbage on the roadside. Although there are many galaxy levels here, the only person who can really be promoted is Jia Yan. After all, he was ready to be promoted before, but failed to be promoted. It is really possible for him to be promoted within a year. Unfortunately, now that the Zerg Queen has said this, Jia Yan can only suppress his promotion. I understand, Her Majesty the Queen, even if I want to be promoted, I will suppress it until I reach the center of the galaxy. Jia Yan smiled bitterly, and then he carried the Edisha on his back and practiced and rested in his first-class place. In fact, he is not that honest. As a strong man who competes against time, although he had previously chosen not to be promoted, if the time came to be promoted, he would definitely choose to be promoted. Because Jia Yan was promoted almost every time he wanted to be promoted. There were even many times when his promotion was timely, which resulted in him killing his enemies. Now that the central region of the galaxy is full of crises, how could he give up opportunities for promotion? Of course, he would not really choose to be promoted in this energy circle. The Zerg Queen made it clear just now that promotion here is likely to cause problems in the circle, causing the entire energy circle to stop or even explode. That would not only cost other people's lives. The problem is, even Jia Yan himself may be killed. What he thinks is that when the time comes, he will enter the subspace and be promoted. Although the speed of the energy circle seems to be a little faster than the speed of the Edisha in the 10-dimensional subspace, Jia Yan can temporarily enter the subspace to practice and be promoted, and then burst out of the Edisha for a short period of time. With speed, it is still possible to catch up with this energy circle. So he has made up his mind and will never compromise. Anyway, at most he will let the Queen open an opening in the energy circle to let him out. She shouldn't care about such a small time, right? The Zerg Queen naturally didn't know what Jia Yan was planning to do. After thinking that Jia Yan was still very obedient, she talked about some knowledge about the center of the Milky Way and the key points to pay attention to, etc., and then stopped comparing with this group of key points. The important galaxy-level beings talked. This conversation is over, and the Zerg Queen will probably not speak again in this year. Because during this year's long journey, she didn't want others to have the possibility of being promoted because of her guidance. Although she was usually very happy when someone got promoted, it would be too depressing to be promoted at this juncture. Now, she will stop the energy circle to allow others to advance, and it will not stop. You must know that stopping the energy circle and then continuing to accelerate, the time wasted in the middle is not a matter of a month, but at least a waste of half a year, plus the waste of energy. It is not cost-effective at all. Of course, Jia Yan would not have so much trouble since he had subdimensional talent, but Jia Yan could not be left alone as a special case. Today passes. Others are just inside the energy circle, either going out to the edge of the energy circle to appreciate the power of the Zerg Queen, the Domain Lord, or they are in 2s and 3s, talking, practicing certain moves, etc. in this huge energy circle. Jia Yan is the only one who hides in his first-class training palace, constantly cultivating in secret, and never misses any time for cultivation. Everyone else remembered what the Queen of the Zerg said, "Don't get promoted," but Jia Yan just didn't care so much and kept improving to a higher level of strength, preparing to be promoted anytime and anywhere. This boy actually turned a deaf ear to my words. The Zerg Queen was not far from Jia Yan, and her delicate face, which resembled that of a human woman, was filled with displeasure. The outsider Jia Yan is her clone, found from the distant Orion arm. For the Zerg Queen, the Orion arm is really far away, but it belongs to the extreme distance of her influence. Many strong people there don't even know the name of her Zerg Queen, so this remote mountain village-like place she has never had any expectations of what kind of strong person will emerge. Especially when the energy body delivered the news for the first time, she felt that the so-called evolutionary beast actually existed. She was happy at the time, so she devoted a lot of attention to Jia Yan's body to observe. This is also the reason why Jia Yan felt that there was some force observing him when he was weak. Unfortunately, she discovered later that this evolved beast didn't seem very talented. At least according to her definition, even if it had the talent to be promoted to the galaxy level, it did not meet her expectations. In addition, the distance was far away. She didn't know when she reached the galaxy level, so during that battle, she left Jia Yan and told Jia Yan that she was disappointed. In the following time, she would occasionally remember how the evolved beast had progressed, whether it was dead, etc. But when the clone actually found out that the evolved beast in the Orion arm had reached the galaxy level and had killed several galaxy-level people of the same level, she was still a little shocked. What happened next was relatively simple. She sent a clone to the Orion arm and issued an invitation to Jia Yan. The arrival of this evolved beast is also a good expectation for the Queen of the Zerg. Although even now, Jia Yan is still not too talented, but at least there is a certain chance. Forget it, he can be promoted if he wants to be promoted. I also understand that he seems to think that his subspace talent can escape from the energy circle, but he has no idea how it is so easy to escape from my energy circle, so when I arrive, he definitely needs to slow down a bit, that is, he will at least save most of the trouble when compared to other creatures to advance. Forget it, waste 3 or 2 months, plus a certain amount of energy, let him advance before reaching the center of the galaxy. It's good to be a mid-level star. Despite the fact that the Queen of the Zerg had been blaming Jia Yan for taking matters into his own hands and using the star core that was supposed to be promoted to the intermediate level for other purposes, she was actually quite positive about Jia Yan. Because among the strong men she has attracted now, Jia Yan is considered to be among the top 5 in talent. However, apart from him, the other 3 are all middle-level strong men in the galaxy, except for one who is at the beginning of the galaxy like Jia Yan. Which includes Black Sheep, a mid-level galaxy being who is only 1 step away from the Territory Lord level. Therefore, Jia Yan, who has the same talent but is only at the elementary level of galaxy, cannot be too tilted towards the Zerg Queen. Boom. Puff. The energy circles are constantly intertwining and shuttling in subspace and the gravitational wave system. Jia Yan did not have that much time to observe the shuttle methods of these 2 forces, but this did not prevent him from knowing that the shuttle methods of these 2 forces were also a rare reference for the application of energy for ordinary strong people. That's why there are so many galaxy-level beings around the energy circle, constantly observing the energy circle. And Jia Yan, a first-class gifted creature who was previously embarrassed and unable to be promoted, was also observed by many interested people. Some people say that his behavior of cultivating in the palace was because Jia Yan felt embarrassed and did not dare to come out to meet people. Some people also say that Jia Yan probably still wants to be promoted to the middle level of the galaxy before reaching the center of the galaxy. Otherwise, he will not have the ability to protect himself when he reaches the center of the galaxy. Anyway, he said everything, but these words were not heard by Jia Yan. As for himself, he just wanted to practice quickly, and he didn't care about anything else. Whether he was embarrassed or not, he didn't care too much. Of course, if you can be promoted successfully and then slap a group of people in the face, it is also a good choice. My yin and yang Dao has now become two aspects of energy. I thought before that I needed at least another star core to have a chance to be promoted to the middle level of the galaxy, but what is the reality? I feel it during this time, I may have a chance to be promoted, and I won't need so much energy at all, or even such pure power, to be promoted. Jia Yan felt his power deep in the palace of Class A. Previously, he believed that his promotion needed to take into account the power of both yin and yang, which would require a greater power of yin and yang to be promoted. But after adapting to the distinct power of yin and yang for so many days, he suddenly understood that his strength may not require such exaggerated power, but now he also has the opportunity to advance. Of course, strength is absolutely necessary. After all, when you reach the galaxy level, it is not so easy to be promoted with just a little practice. Without external energy stimulation and bonus, how can you generate strength out of thin air? Jia Yan first prepared a pile of energy that he carried inside the Edisha. These energies are the countless essences he collected from his trip within Orion's arms that day. Although for the Zerg domain or other galaxy-level powerhouses, these powers are really a bit too childish, and even for them, it is a bit difficult to refine, but in fact, these energies are the collection of many resources of the Orion arm. The essence is mainly in large quantities, so the amount is sufficient. Compared with Star Core, it is much inferior, but for Jia Yan, it is also a good supplement. If I use these reserves, I will have to find my own energy in the future. But there is no need. Being able to practice to the middle level of the galaxy before the center of the galaxy will definitely be of great benefit to my self-protection, so I must do this. Jia Yan firmly poured out a large amount of resources in the Edisha. The supplies in the backpack were poured out instantly. The Adisa has been carried on Jia Yan's back. Although it has gone through several battles, the Adelaide has not suffered any losses. This is because Jia Yan deliberately prevents the Adisa from being affected by the attack energy. There is also the reason why the Adisa itself has good protection. However, more importantly, the design of the Edisha is really very careful. It is designed to fit the appearance of Jia Yan's giant mosquito, and is then embedded in places on Jia Yan's mosquito body that are less vulnerable to attack. In this way, the chances of the Edisa being hit by an attack would be much less. There are also other reasons, that is, there are beings with the same strength as Jia Yan. When they attack Jia Yan, they will not choose the place where these backpacks are to attack. Although it is unlikely that the backpack can block a galaxy-level attack, it is still possible to cause a certain amount of energy loss. If the attack that could have injured the backpack owner is buffered a little, the backpack owner is not injured, and then if he even fights back and kills the attacker, then doesn't the attacker have nowhere to cry? Therefore, there is no fighting presence, and it will target the backpack to attack. There's a lot of energy here. It seems like we're going to start practicing again. Jia Yan looked at the outside world. Many galaxy-level beings in the energy circle were chatting lazily, talking about reaching the center of the galaxy in the future. But for a person like him, he suddenly started practicing in a very showy way. Huh? The power is surging. Who is it? Her Majesty the Queen has repeatedly told her not to practice, but he actually practices. Holy shit, this guy is so awesome. He has completely forgotten what the Queen said and still dares to practice. Isn't this the area where Jia Yan is? Is it Jia Yan who is practicing? Haha, I understand, this guy is still unwilling to give in and wants to practice to the middle level of the galaxy before reaching the center of the galaxy. It's so unreasonable. You actually dare to practice. Her Majesty the Queen said so many things, but he didn't listen to any of them. You're so brave. It depends on how Her Majesty the Queen responds. This guy is practicing with all his strength. The power in our energy circle is a bit weird. Don't let him really explode. Otherwise, we will be unlucky. Jia Yan suddenly started practicing, and the Zerg Queen was also somewhat prepared. When Jia Yan took out so many cultivation materials just now, she looked ugly. Now sure enough, Jia Yan actually started practicing. Forget it, if he really wants to practice, then just practice. At worst, I will reduce his training materials in the future to let him know the pain. The Zerg Queen sighed. In fact, she didn't mean that she couldn't stabilize the energy circle. After all, how could something created by a domain master, an elementary creature from the galaxy, be broken so easily? It should even be said that it is very difficult for all the galaxy-level beings present, even those like Black Sheep who are about to enter the Territory Lord level, to cause damage. Please remember the first domain name of this book. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1896. In fact, this energy circle is like the domain of the Zerg Queen. Let me ask, a domain master is considered a powerful being, can the domain she created be destroyed so easily? If it's that simple, then Jia Yan is really powerful, because he is not even at the middle level and can destroy a domain lord's domain. Of course that's impossible. What the Queen of the Zerg is afraid of is that everyone will do this. With so many middle and junior level experts coming together, even if her strength is astonishing, she will definitely not be able to bear it. In short, Jia Yan was allowed to practice alone. Externally, it is said that Jia Yan will be punished in the future, but in private, no one can say clearly whether the Zerg Queen punishes Jia Yan or rewards him, and there are different opinions. So much so that in the later period, when everyone was chatting outside or conducting training simulations, they could only feel Jia Yan's cultivation aura. This person's cultivation aura is not unique to others. Even if the power of Yin and Yang Dao is not a very familiar power to others, the general path of cultivation is still the same, and everyone is just the same. Feel Jia Yan's cultivation aura, and then simulate the feeling of your own cultivation. This can be regarded as enjoyable. After all, each of the strong people has been addicted to cultivation for a long time. They are told not to practice for a year, or even to contact them. If you do it, you will definitely die of discomfort. As for Jia Yan himself, it is different from what everyone thinks. His cultivation was not so smooth. Because this is the first time in such a long time that he has used two kinds of power training methods. The last time I practiced the Star Core, my Yin and Yang powers were barely separated, and this feeling seems to me to be the most correct way to practice. So now, even if I don't have the Star Core practice, but I still have to maintain the same cultivation method, otherwise the Star Core will be truly in vain. Jia Yan thought this in his heart while swallowing an extremely powerful interstellar mineral. His Yin-Yang Dao cultivation method is really problematic. If the Star Core is used, the newly inhaled energy will be barely converted into Yin and Yang, and the power of the two is clear. Although this will more than double the difficulty of Jia Yan's training and the utilization rate of energy. Which means that Jia Yan has two places to practice, which will greatly hinder Jia Yan's practice speed. But in fact, there are many benefits to practicing on both sides. For example, his strength will show two sides in the future. This is not just as simple as 1 plus 1 equals 2. Maybe in terms of total amount, adding both sides is not as good as simply practicing on one side. With the same consumption, it is very likely that Jia Yan has already cultivated to the middle level of the galaxy. But that cannot be said. If Jia Yan practices on both sides of the yin and yang Dao method, if he cultivates to the middle level of galaxy, then it is very likely that he will be able to deal with himself who only cultivates one side of the energy. That is a half-time enhancement. Among galaxy-level creatures, it is already an absolutely terrifying enhancement plan. If it is given to others to choose, even if it requires more supplies, countless people will flock to it. What's more, as long as the orthodox cultivation method of yin and yang Dao reaches a high level, it is likely that the difficulty of promotion will be easier than that of ordinary cultivation. The reason is also very simple. Just like the nose has two blowholes, if the nose is blocked by mucus, it can try to ventilate over there. The same principle applies to yin and yang Dao. When you break through, if you can break through in two places, it is equivalent to having two opportunities. Therefore, Jia Yan will never give up his current way of practicing yin and yang Dao. But now, I feel that the power I swallowed is not as good as the star core. After it is sucked into my stomach, it becomes two very unclear powers. This way, my previous absorption can be said to be a waste. Jia Yan was very depressed. He was speechless as he watched the energy in his body turn into chaos again. The clear positive and negative power that he finally cultivated was mixed with these newly absorbed powers and became chaotic again. This was not what he wanted. It would be better to break through the star core in the first place. Why waste so much time and energy? No, I can't let these powers continue to be chaotic. Even if it goes slower, it will consume more energy. I use my perseverance to absorb it slowly, absorb a little and force it to convert a little. This will definitely meet the requirements. Yes, it's just that it's very slow to practice in this way. At most, I can only use this method in this energy circle where there is nothing to do. In the future, I think we still have to spend time looking for star cores or things similar to star cores to practice. Other supplies, even these high-grade supplies I brought from the Orion Arm, are of no use. Jia Yan sighed bitterly. It is said that when a strong person cultivates, he cannot see low-level materials clearly. He understands these truths. As an evolved beast that absorbs any energy to satisfy his cultivation needs, Jia Yan does not have high requirements for materials. He has the opportunity to transform even low-level power into his own cultivation power. But it doesn't work now. If he continues to practice in such a chaotic way, his power cannot be purified, and he will definitely not be able to take advantage in front of more powerful opponents. So it is better to slow down and purify his power. In other words, Jia Yan's resource target for future training suddenly became that most of the energy was useless, and he could only focus on super hard to obtain energy like star cores. I don't know whether my judgment will be a blessing or a curse for the future. Jia Yan continued to be helpless. But he did not stop his practice. Buzz buzz. All the power absorbed by the mouthparts was turned into a liquid suitable for him to suck, and some of his favorite flavors and styles were even added to it. Although Jia Yan is not that greedy for food, with those resources, how could he not live a more comfortable life? Anyway, inside the Orion Arm, there were as many factories as needed to add flavor to the energy. Jia Yan did not let himself feel uncomfortable at all. With a wave of his hand, he directly used it for public and private purposes, and added all the devouring energy for himself. The texture of the food. It's cool. Although these energies are not easy to use, they still taste good. Why didn't I think of such a way to make myself comfortable before? If I had done this earlier, How could I be so uncomfortable every time I sucked in the power? Jia Yan was about to fall. Fortunately, he is at least a strong man and knows that he cannot just enjoy delicious food all the time. So after absorbing a certain amount of energy, he quickly did not dare to devour it anymore. In the bottom of his heart, he gradually consumed the energy of the food he had swallowed earlier. Next, many galaxy-level creatures who were experiencing Jia Yan's cultivation in the outside world suddenly discovered that Jia Yan had stopped. What's going on? Is he trying to break through? Where is he? His power is not at full strength at all. It is still early to break through. I don't know what he is thinking. The galaxy-level beings in the outside world all feel a little confused about what Jia Yan is doing. Anyway, for them, they have not studied Yin and Yang Tao, and they do not know that there is a process of dividing power into two types. Naturally, they do not understand why Jia Yan sucked power so well, but why he suddenly stopped. It's like watching a movie, and there's an advertisement in the middle of the movie, which can make the viewer angry to death. In short, Jia Yan silently divided the power he had just sucked in his heart, and then his eyes suddenly lit up with joy. Sure enough, it's possible. I just need to slow down the speed of sucking, and then every once in a while, I will take the initiative to cut the power I just sucked into finely and divide it into positive and negative forces. This way I won't be distracted. The power of Yin and Yang Dao is even more turbid. He was happy. This method was slower, but after all, it was the most suitable method for him now. Continue. Jia Yan slowly cut off part of his power, and it took 2 days before he started the next practice. It took 1 day to absorb the power, but it took 2 days to cut it. In other words, it took 3 days to complete the power that was originally absorbed in one breath. The speed can be said to be much slower. But Jia Yan was enjoying it very much, while others were a little depressed and it was hard to watch. Damn it, what kind of cultivation method is this? Come and stop for a while. Are you constipated? This guy means we can't practice. If I can practice too, I really want to come up with a refreshing way to practice quickly and let him see clearly. That is the most enjoyable way to practice. I really want to practice. Why haven't I arrived at the center of the Milky Way yet? I'm greedy and want to go everywhere. I really want to practice. Every strong man was scolding Jia Yan. After all, they couldn't practice. As far as cultivation is concerned, these powerful people have all been cultivating for hundreds or even hundreds of years. They practice every day. If suddenly they are unable to practice for a year, they will definitely be anxious and feel that they have lost something. But Jia Yan, a bastard like him, was practicing next to them. He would practice one section at a time, then suddenly stop and then start the next section. It was like constipation. It almost made them vomit blood, and they wished they could practice it themselves. It is a pity that the only person who has received the most unique permission to practice is Jia Yan. Even if others want to practice, they absolutely cannot. The Queen of the Zerg will definitely stop it, because it may already create an energy circle. It's unstable. As for Jia Yan's cultivation method, he was also a little confused by the Zerg Queen, the only and most powerful being in the energy circle. Although she is much stronger than Jia Yan, she is still at the galaxy level, and she is not able to ignore other galaxy level experts and spy on all his abilities. If it is really that scary, she will not ask the galaxy level existence here to help her. Bar. So she couldn't understand what Jia Yan's practice was about. But of course she also knew that there was definitely a reason for Jia Yan's cultivation method. This Jia Yan, could it be that he had to abide by this way of cultivation that led to his failure in promotion last time? When he practiced before, it was obviously not like this, although I don't know what he was doing. But this pretentious way will definitely not have any good results. The Queen of the Zerg didn't know what Jia Yan was worried about, or what kind of practice Jia Yan was practicing, but she understood that a gifted being actually slowed down her practice speed for some unique practice methods, and even it was an absolute mistake to give up even one promotion. Compared with gaining a benefit that may not come from cultivation, upgrading the level must be based on actual strength. At least the Zerg Queen firmly believes in this. Of course, as a person with a good background and top-notch talents, she has no regrets in her cultivation. So if she encounters such confusion as Jia Yan, what choice will she make? It is also difficult to judge. Maybe like Jia Yan, she will choose this way of cultivation. Nothing goes wrong, at least now. The Zerg Queen's disappointment in Jia Yan has become more obvious. Jia Yan didn't know that his cultivation would actually arouse the opinions of so many powerful people from the outside world, as well as the Queen of the Zerg. He only knew that he should follow his own cultivation method and slowly improve his strength. Next, he had to raise his strength to the ultimate limit of the initial level, and then he could follow the opportunity to break through. So even though he practiced slowly, he still worked tirelessly, absorbing it for a period of time, and then stopped abruptly for a period of time. This kind of cultivation method was difficult for everyone to accept at first, but after a long time, it suddenly felt like nothing. Everyone is used to Jia Yan's practice of absorbing in one day, consuming and cutting in 2 days, and then absorbing in another day. He is very diligent and spends almost the same time. Many strong people regard Jia Yan's practice rules as their schedule. Punctual than the clock. So a very strange situation occurred. In this energy circle, many galaxy-level beings are waiting silently. Especially when Jia Yan is practicing, they feel very uncomfortable, and most of them will stopping at the resting place you chose, resting and enduring the thought of practicing. And when Jia Yan was cutting, it was like a festival. Each of them appeared with a smile on their face, and then flew around in the energy circle, such as walking or talking, like a spring breeze, until Jia Yan started practicing again. They have to endure it again. Fortunately, Jia Yan spent more time cutting than practicing, so each of them slowly got used to it, and they were a little emotional. Fortunately, Jia Yan only spent 3 days in one day during his training, so it didn't tempt them much. In this way, time passed slowly. Originally, everyone thought that Jia Yan might be promoted within half a year, but there was a change. Jia Yan was not promoted so quickly. But after more than half a year passed, he finally let out a sigh of relief. The giant mosquito crawled in a corner of the palace, and then its compound eyes were filled with brilliant light. Full of energy, I finally reached the top. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1897. If you want to be promoted, just go to the subspace by yourself. I have already calculated the time when you will be promoted and slowed down the speed. After the promotion is completed, chase after you. If you can't catch up, I won't care. It's your breach of contract. Good. The seemingly cold words of the Zerg Queen appeared in Jia Yan's ears, and he responded quickly. Yes, the Zerg Queen feels it and Jia Yan wants to be promoted. This time it's not fake, but he really wants to be promoted. With such a speed, if the Zerg Queen hadn't known that Jia Yan had used 1/3 of his original speed to get promoted half a year later, he might have felt that his talent was not that good. In fact, even now when she sees Jia Yan practicing once every 3 days and reaching the threshold of promotion so quickly, she is still very dissatisfied. Because if Jia Yan continues to practice this way in the future, there is no chance of catching up with other talented people at the galaxy level. In other words, Jia Yan's utilization value has become gone. Of course, saying utilization value may be a bit hurtful, so let's talk about cooperation value. After all, she wants so many galaxy-level beings to accompany her, and she gives a lot of resources are not free for being a good person. Without the speed and strength of cultivation, she would have to lose money. This is why the Zerg Queen is a little unhappy with Jia Yan. Puff. Jia Yan didn't even think about it that much. He directly tore apart the subspace around him. The entire energy circle shook suddenly. It can be seen that Jia Yan's tearing caused much damage to the energy circle. Of course, this is the reason why the Zerg Queen opened the back door for him. If she hadn't allowed Jia Yan to tear apart subspace, a mere mid-level galaxy creature would probably not have been able to tear apart her energy circle so casually. Who? Jia Yan stepped into the subspace. Afterwards, he turned back and took a deep look at the energy circle. In fact, Jia Yan is already thinking about whether he really breached the contract. Forget it, let's break through first and then we'll see what happens. He entered the subspace in one step. Buzz. The energy circle behind him flew out of Jia Yan's field of vision almost the moment he entered the subspace. That speed is simply unimaginable. It's so fast. I haven't felt such a speed inside, and it's such a huge energy circle. The strength of the Zerg Queen and the technological capabilities of the Zerg territory are simply unimaginable. Jia Yan was slightly shocked. But he didn't think about it that much. It's definitely not possible to advance in a normal space. No one knows where the outside world is, not to mention that it's not too far from the center of the galaxy. Presumably, the strong people here are definitely dense and powerful. If they know, there will be a strange strong man is making a breakthrough in their territory, and they must be willing to investigate. If they want to attack me while I am weak and defenseless during my breakthrough, then I will be in danger. Jia Yan is from a minor space and has no idea of advancing to a normal space. Anyway, he was almost used to the method of advancing in subspace. The energy around here suddenly decreased a lot. Sure enough, the energy in the energy circle is 10 times or even 100 times more than the outside world. Jia Yan felt the power of the outside world in the subspace where he was, and the power of the universe. Every strong person in the universe would understand it, so he instantly understood that in the energy circle, even if he had lowered the energy circle in order to travel far, energy reserve, but the energy inside is still not comparable to the outside world. He didn't care so much anymore. In short, he quickly retreated from the first-dimensional space to the third-dimensional space. If you go deeper, you need to use the power of your body to resist, which will affect your promotion, so it should be the best in the three-dimensional subspace. People who don't deliberately investigate the subspace will not know that someone is making a breakthrough here. Bar. Jia Yan stopped in the third dimension. Then, he suddenly poured out the last remaining bit of energy in the Aditya's backpack to the outside of the subspace. Sizzle. The energy in the backpack is the purest force. In the three-dimensional distortion of subspace, it will not be instantly swallowed by the distortion, but a strange sound will be heard when they come into contact with each other. Jia Yan didn't dare to wait any longer, so he quickly continued to devour the power. This devouring was extremely fast. The power in the body is like a terrifying liquid that can't be shaken all day long. In an instant, it will transform into a higher level of power. This is the precursor to promotion. After more than half a year of wasted time, Jia Yan finally reached the critical point of promotion. Intermediate Galaxy, please hurry up and get there. Jia Yan recited silently, and then entered into the feeling of breakthrough. In the interstellar world, it is difficult for most of the star fields to detect a strong man coming from subspace. But this does not mean that there is no star field that cannot be discovered. In particular, before this powerful man came, there was a terrifying and shocking force that swept across the entire star field. Humph, you actually walked into my star field without saying hello beforehand. Are you a force from the countryside heading to the center of the Milky Way? It's okay to be so unscrupulous in the countryside, but when you get to this place far away from the center of the Milky Way, you actually dare to act like a countryman. The way he does things is just a bit too much for a country bumpkin. An earth-shaking terrifying existence silently hovers above an extremely prosperous star. This being has a body that has never been seen before. It is 100 kilometers long, and its entire body is like a ball of flesh, so on the surface, it can survive certain creatures, and even if he moves, these creatures will not be left behind. He is a terrifying creature that has reached the Domain Lord level. This Territory Lord plays the role of Star Domain Manager in this starry sky. And with his strength, he must have been to the center of the Milky Way, and it is even possible that he can still return to the center of the Milky Way to settle down. If the Zerg Queen were here, it would definitely be shocking. Because the earth-shaking fluctuations emitted by this Territory Lord level existence are not much different from hers, that is to say, if the two fight, the Zerg Queen may win, but if she wants to kill this Territory Lord, the Zerg Queen will look at the ocean and sigh. The energy circle that left was extremely backward. It is estimated that it was indeed a certain Territory Lord who came from the countryside. It's just that the strength of this Territory Lord had a brief contact with me when he swept through it just now. He was not even weaker than me. Seeing that she is quite powerful, I will not pursue it. Of course, if I meet her in person in the future, I will ask her and at least teach her how to behave in the central region of the galaxy. This terrifying creature that was 100 kilometers in size sneered. By the way, when the energy circle left earlier, it seemed that something was thrown down. The distance was too far and the opponent's speed was too fast. I didn't feel it very clearly. Let's do this, send a few people over to see if it is if the other party throws her down to pay off debts and kill people for me, then I'll laugh. If that's the case, she's not too unreasonable. This Territory Lord exists and analyzed a wave of things. In the starry sky, especially in the star field close to the center of the Milky Way, in addition to saying hello to the passing strong men, some of them are really busy and cannot say hello and stop, so they will abandon their relatively important subordinates and treat them as, apologize. Of course, the Zerg Queen didn't think so. She really didn't understand this logic at all. It just so happened that Jia Yan himself wanted to be promoted and entered the energy circle. What even the Zerg Queen didn't expect was that the opponent, a Domain Lord level being, had such terrifying perception ability and directly detected Jia Yan's body. Location. This puts Jia Yan in danger. Sir, let's go. The two of us are already at the intermediate level of the galaxy. Presumably, if the person left by the other party to plead guilty would not be so exaggerated as the intermediate level of the galaxy. After all, the intermediate level of the galaxy is not a big cabbage. He comes from the countryside, let alone he regards the galaxy intermediate as a treasure, so he will never leave behind a galaxy intermediate, and it is even very possible that it is just a star level, so we go over to solve it, which can be regarded as a little respect for the other party. The two mid-level galactic beings approached this 100-kilometer large lump of meat monster and presented themselves. Are you going? That's fine. If you go and see the creature who was thrown down as a culprit, ask him about his origins. Of course, you still have to kill him. After killing him, give him the power of the other party. Send a message back, saying that this is the offense and we are willing to forgive them. After all, we have left behind a guilty creature. Sir, what if the other party is stubborn and resists? After all, every strong person who practices is not that easy to practice. He definitely doesn't want to die. You are stubbornly resisting? Do you still want me to teach you about this kind of thing? Just kill him. Yes. Then we're leaving. Poof. In the starry sky, two shadows shot up quickly. Although these two shadows are not as huge as the 100 kilometers in size creature, each one is more than 50 kilometers in size. Haha, I just asked you, sir, if we can kill the other party if he doesn't want to die. If we don't ask this question more, we may have conflicts with the other party's forces in the future, and we will have to take the blame. Yes, I heard that in a star field next door, two strong men killed the chess pieces of another strong man who came. But the strong man turned around and said that the star field killed their people. In the end, The two strong men killed them. One of the strong men was pushed out by the domain lord in the star field and gave an explanation to the other party. We cannot fall to that situation. But it shouldn't be the case. Our territory lord is a bit more powerful than the territory lord from the star field next door. That territory lord is considered weak among the territory lords, so he panicked when the other party came forward. But our domain master won't. That's true, but at least we got the order from the lord of the territory to kill the one who left him behind. This is considered a serious order. Don't hold anything back then. Of course. The two strong men chatted and laughed along the way, very relaxedly. Of course it was easy for them. After all, the two beings are both mid-level galaxies, and they are not considered weak mid-level galaxies. Their domain lord once said that they have a chance to challenge the domain lord's talent role. So they would never think that the character who was left as a pawn could be more powerful than them. These two people had never thought that the abandoned person was not really abandoned at all, but just happened to fall into their star field by chance. Even in these places close to the central region of the Milky Way, he didn't know that there were such unwritten rules. Naturally, Jia Yan didn't know that there were two powerful men coming, ready to kill him. He didn't even know until this moment that his whereabouts were already completely controlled by a domain lord level existence. At this moment, he was completely unaware of the upcoming crisis, hiding in the subspace and making breakthroughs. Puff puff. Waves of energy are constantly traveling within the body, impacting energy with energy. From the bottom of his heart, Jia Yan no longer suppresses these energies carefully. Because the positive and negative forces are already refined to an exaggerated level, at this moment, what he needs is not the improvement of positive and negative forces, but the impact of breaking through the primary and intermediate levels of strength. So this time, he had no choice but to transform his power in a refined way. Therefore, the huge power, although not so pure and extremely chaotic in the body, only acts as an impact barrier. Haha, it is indeed loose. My body has actually been able to be promoted more than a year ago, and I have been prepared for promotion long ago. Even if the strength of the galaxy level is improved, it is not that easy. But after all, I have been loose for so long, and now I can be promoted successfully if I just do whatever I want. Feeling the power loosening in his body, Jia Yan seemed to be faintly evolving to a higher level, and Jia Yan was slightly happy. After all, the power of breakthrough would not have been loosened so quickly if it had not been easy to advance. Haha, I thought that my breakthrough would definitely not be that fast, so I had planned before. If the breakthrough was really slow, then I would fly to the center of the galaxy by myself. Although the journey may be difficult and even dangerous, it is still possible. There is no other way. But looking at it now, I guess the Queen of the Zerg has seen my promotion speed clearly, so she told me to catch up later. Jia Yan thought about it for a while, and realized that the Zerg Queen was the most powerful. She might have calculated her own promotion speed. Of course, the Zerg Queen trusts him, not to mention that if Jia Yan's promotion speed would not be faster, she would probably not let Jia Yan enter the energy circle. If he wants to be promoted, he will have to suppress it until she takes Jia Yan to the center of the galaxy. Before he was promoted, that was the best way to keep a genius. Nowadays, Jia Yan's promotion in the outside world is pretty fast anyway, and there are very few chances of problems, so she feels relieved. As for whether Jia Yan will leave, he is more or less a fool. He has been with the Zerg Queen for so long, and then he ran to the gate of the central area of the galaxy and made a divine escape? How is it possible? He is not crazy. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1898. It is not a big deal for Jia Yan to run away here. It is better not to say anything in the first place, to pay for some supplies or something, but now to disappear at the central door of the Milky Way, a place he is unfamiliar with, is completely unreasonable. The above is Jia Yan's analysis of the direction the Zerg Queen is thinking now. Of course, the other party is a domain lord, a stronger man than Jia Yan. Jia Yan doesn't know what he thinks, and he may be wrong. No matter what, I will make a breakthrough now. After I break through, I will think about whether to catch up with them quickly. Jia Yan was immersed in his breakthrough in cultivation. The power in his body surged and collided again and again. The positive and negative forces are also like a terrifying wave of soldiers with unparalleled momentum. They help and impact the force again and again, surging above the level and preparing to attack the crumbling level. After all, he was about to break through the strength, and the hurdles that stood in front of Jia Yan also represented the difference between the primary and intermediate levels. They were like invisible walls, with cracks that kept getting bigger. Boom. Boom boom. Under the impact again and again, there was a faint sound inside the subspace. Finally. Click. A seemingly slight, but earth-shattering, thunderous sound suddenly resounded throughout the world. In the third layer of subspace, there was no resistance at all, and endless power spread and dispersed in an instant. There was a faint explosion between heaven and earth. The positive and negative forces, at this moment, are like drawing a Tai Chi diagram. In 1 second, a large area of subspace distortion has been smoothed out, and it has become a shocking appearance that is half positive force and half counter force. The power of these two aspects continues to appear between heaven and earth and will not disappear for a long time. Ha 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 ha. Within the starry sky, the giant mosquito laughed proudly. At this moment, his whole body was covered in azure blue, and there was even a hint of golden brilliance in the blue. Galaxy intermediate level has arrived. It's just that unlike the previous promotions, at this moment, he has not mutated and turned into a cocoon. It's not that he won't do that again, but that Jia Yan chose to control his mutation. Galactic intermediate level. I am also on the same level as the Territory Lord. Although there is a huge difference in power, the Queen of the Zerg no longer looks down upon me. Jia Yan smiled slightly, then looked at himself. The entire body is intertwined with azure blue and gold. The golden brilliance has already been displayed during his previous mutations and battles. It is foreseeable that at some point in the future, the azure blue of his body will turn into all gold. Of course, these color changes are not the focus of Jia Yan's observation today. The focus of his observation is the change in strength. Although the body has not mutated, promotion is promotion, or it should be said that other strong men change like this when they are promoted. They usually advance first, and then gradually change their body shape through the absorption of external materials. Become adapted to the strength of the time. This time, Jia Yan followed the same method. It's not that he doesn't want to mutate and increase to the strongest level of strength in one breath, but that he wants to swallow such a huge amount of mutated materials. That is definitely not a matter of time. He needs to wait for a suitable time to make up for these mutation processes. Superior. That will be another promotion for him. Of course, it's pretty good now. Very good. My strength, both positive and negative, seems to have broken through a layer of shackles, giving my strength a completely new feel. Maybe my strength will be enhanced again. This promotion is expected. In essence, the strength is not a rapid improvement because of the lack of mutation. But if there is mutation, there is no time now. Fortunately, I am now at the galaxy level. I just wanted to swallow matter. I couldn't hold it back. Generally speaking, after Jia Yan improves his strength, he will want to swallow matter and enter a mutated sleep. But this time, he actually endured it. It must be said that this was a victory for Jia Yan's mental power, and it was also a victory for him to control himself after being promoted to the galaxy level. However, this control is not easy. If he had not reached the level of promotion, and this promotion did not cause excessive body reactions, otherwise he would definitely not be able to control this mutated thought. At that time, there would be no one around him. The supplies he swallowed may be the result of his whole body splitting into countless pieces. So it's still very dangerous. In short, this time, it can be said that there was no danger, and there was no situation that caused Jia Yan's promotion to fail. Very good, now, I'm just going to chase, huh? When Jia Yan had just been promoted successfully, he estimated the time and found that it was about 2 days before the Zerg Queen's energy circle flew out. If he used the flying ability of the Aditha to catch up, it would not be impossible for him to catch up. He was about to take action, but he felt that there were two extremely terrifying energies outside the subspace. They did not hide their murderous intentions and were approaching quickly. What's going on? Are there local strongmen here? They are actually two mid-level galaxies. Jia Yan was stunned for a moment, and then his expression became very solemn. He didn't even dare to escape quickly, because his body was still in the sense of breakthrough after being promoted, and if he immediately burst out with a lot of strength to escape, it would cause damage to his body. And when he quickly recovered, the opponent was almost close to the area. If he dared to turn around and escape, the opponent could instantly attack the subspace and injure him. In other words, no matter what Jia Yan does, it will be difficult to bypass these two approaching galaxy intermediate beings. No, the other party may not be here to attack. Maybe they are just curious about me? After all, when you reach the level of mid-level creatures in the galaxy, you can feel the energy of my promotion just now. Jia Yan thought of this solemnly. Then, he decided to ask the other party what he wanted to do. So he actually did not retreat but flew out to the lower level of the subspace. Two intermediary stars from the galaxy. Jia Yan was thinking that before his strength reached the middle level of the galaxy, he could deal with a pretty good middle level being. Now that he has reached the middle level of the galaxy, even if he is only barely there, his strength is still the same. There has been rapid progress, so there should be a certain chance of dealing with the two opponents. At least, he can escape. It just so happened that when these two arrived, his promotion was stabilizing. And just when Jia Yan was heading towards the outside world of subspace, the two creatures approaching were also approaching at this time, and they were a little startled. Because they didn't know that the guy who was abandoned as an apologetic being turned out to be a mid-level galaxy being. Which territory lord level could be so generous that a powerful subordinate of Du Xing's mid-level could be used as a scapegoat to apologize? They felt that they had made a mistake or misunderstood something. Of course, they guessed very accurately that this majestic mid-level galaxy being would naturally not be a scapegoat. At this moment, Jia Yan also noticed the terrifying murderous intention of these two approaching galaxy intermediate rankers. Huh? Did you have murderous intent from the beginning? What did they want to do? Do they want to kill me? Jia Yan was slightly shocked. Logically speaking, strong people in the universe will not rashly start a war. Even if they start a war, they rarely say who they want to kill, especially for middle-level galactic beings like them. Even if they enter the center of the galaxy, they will definitely not be cannon fodder or anything like that. If they want to kill, they can at least do so because of hatred or related reasons. He wanted to fight and kill from the beginning, which was no longer in line with the galaxy-level powerhouse Jia Yan knew. Could it be that this is such a custom here that even the galaxy-level powerhouses regard life as trivial and take killing and adventure as their own responsibility? Jia Yan was a little confused, thinking that there was such a tradition in the center of the Milky Way. No, they seem to be confused. What's going on? I'll go out and ask. It would be best if we can avoid fighting. Of course, if there is a fight, my strength has just been promoted and I haven't mutated yet. I probably want to kill him. These two are a bit difficult, so I should be somewhat confident about killing one of them. Killing the chicken to scare the monkeys will give me an extra bonus in my promotion. Jia Yan sneered, and then, he didn't care so much and flew straight to the outside of the subspace. Be careful, this person doesn't seem to be the scapegoat we imagined. Well, he is very strong, and he seems to have full confidence in himself. Of course, if he is an intermediary from the outside world who comes from the countryside, he will naturally have confidence. After all, he has never seen a strong man of the same level in our star field. The two mid-level galactic creatures, outside the subspace, silently felt that Jia Yan came out of the subspace. Judging from their expressions, it seems that they are not surprised or worried about Jia Yan's subdimensional talent. It can be seen that the existence of this star field does not bring any novelty to subdimensional talent at all. But the subspace was distorted, and a huge mosquito suddenly appeared from inside the subspace. His body still has a hint of gold, and the blue and gold complement each other, which is extremely dazzling. Humph, he is indeed a bumpkin from the outside world. To make himself so dazzling is not in line with the way of a strong man. The two mid-level galactic creatures both sneered at Jia Yan's appearance. Of course, scorning or looking down upon is just a personal psychological emotion. In fact, they also know that this existence that appears outside the subspace is completely of the same level as them, and they are all mid-level galactic creatures. At the very least, they won't be disrespectful. Of course, if they find out clearly that this person is an abandoned chess piece, then they will not be afraid. It's just a bumpkin from the outside world, the galaxy intermediate. What's more, they are two people. Are they still afraid of a galaxy intermediate from outside? You two, is this your territory? Sorry, I took the liberty of visiting. Jia Yan smiled slightly. Oh, Your Excellency, are you the person left behind in the energy circle just now? The two galaxy intermediates also smiled. At least they didn't feel like people who wanted to kill. But deep down in their hearts, they definitely don't want to kill, because if the other party shows that it is the domain lord creature, abandoning it as an apology, they will definitely not be afraid, but choose to take action. Leave it behind? No, I just left the energy circle because of personal matters. Jia Yan was slightly surprised. The reason for surprise was that the other party could actually feel the existence of the energy circle. After all, it would be difficult to feel the rapid advancement of the energy circle without reaching the peak of the middle level of the galaxy. He didn't know that there was a territory lord inside this star field. Your Excellency, please stop pretending. Don't you know that your master simply treated you as a pawn and left you to plead guilty? The two Zing mid-rankers were very unhappy with Jia Yan's ignorance. At this point, you are still pretending to be a ghost. They all could see that Jia Yan's strength seemed to be that he had just been promoted. Apart from this, nothing could be seen. Could it be that he was abandoned by his master, and then the breakthrough just failed because of the creature? In other words, he was just a creature that could reach the peak of the first level of the galaxy in that energy circle just now. A person at the top of the primary level of the galaxy is very likely to be abandoned, because throwing a star-level person down as a chess piece is just barely giving face to the presumptuous territory lord level. Throwing a galaxy-level person down, then it is very generous. When the other side comes back next time, maybe the domain master creatures on both sides will become friends. This is the reason and process of interaction between domain master creatures. Haha, chess piece? You two, I don't know what you mean, and that person is definitely not my master. She and I have always been equals, just friends. Jia Yan smiled again, but there was already a hint of coldness in his smile. He was unhappy. What the other party actually meant was that he was a chess piece and a servant of the Zerg Queen. This made him a little unhappy. Of course, he didn't know that in this area, the domain lord creatures were much more powerful than other galaxy-level creatures, and such as the star domain lord, a master of this level of strength. Servants with intermediate galaxy level are normal. The owner once said that the intruder who left Chiyuan was probably similar in strength to him, which meant that it was normal for the other party to have several galaxy-level servants who were not very talented, especially he is a junior member of the galaxy. What is he if he is not a servant? Do you still expect the Territory Lord to discuss friendship with you as your equal? As expected, the ideas and concepts of both parties are different. After hearing what Jia Yan said, these two mid-level galactic creatures were startled at first, and then became furious. You are talking about friendship between peers. You are definitely an abandoned chess piece. You actually said such impossible words. You think we two are fools? What a country bumpkin. He wants to find a better excuse to get away with it, but he actually wants to deceive us like this. The two mid-level galactic beings were furious that Jia Yan actually deceived them with such words, thinking that this bumpkin looked down on them. Dear, click in and give a good review. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that those who give full marks to the new ones finally find beautiful wives. The mobile site has a new revision and upgrade address, data and bookmarks are synchronized with the computer site, no ads. Refreshing reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1899. You two, what do you mean? Jia Yan's expression became even colder. No need to talk nonsense, you chess piece, it is impossible to deceive now. The two mid-level galactic creatures already regarded Jia Yan as an abandoned chess piece and took action directly. Both of these two creatures were more than 50 kilometers in size, which was much larger than Jia Yan today. So they started to attack together, like two huge mountains crashing into Jia Yan. There is a difference in body size between the two sides, and there is also a certain gap in basic strength. Although they are also at the middle level of the galaxy, they are already a little more stable than those who first entered the middle level of the galaxy. So in terms of energy, it is definitely a little more than Jia Yan. This is also an important reason why they took action boldly after seeing Jia Yan's true and false intentions. After all, there are very few strong men who are really angry because of anger. They dare to take action against a creature of the same level because they have considered it in their own hearts and feel that there is a chance of victory and that they will not even be hurt. But what they never expected was that the bumpkin in front of them, who seemed to have weaker energy than them, was not as unbearable as they imagined. Boom! In the first confrontation, Jia Yan shot back and retreated. His front feet were facing each other one by one, and they were both hit by the two mid-level galactic beings. Of course, he had to retreat. Their strength is definitely not weak. But that's all. The eyes of the two mid-level galactic beings suddenly looked a little surprised. They just thought that even if there was any reason for Jia Yan to abandon his chess pieces and be promoted to the middle level of the galaxy, his strength would definitely not be comparable to either of them. But in the first collision, although they were not injured, as they wished, the outsider mid-level creature was seriously injured. This surprised them. They are two people working together. Oh, you actually have some strength. Your chess piece, we underestimate you. The eyes of both of them changed. They even thought about whether what the other party said was true, because how could the Territory Lord give up on such a powerful creature? Just thinking that Jia Yan actually said that he had achieved an equal status with that domain master creature, they felt that Jia Yan was farting, because at least as far as their star domain was concerned, a creature who was just a beginner in the galaxy just now, how is it possible to obtain an equal status with a domain lord creature? Of course, this is the urban-rural gap again. In the city, that is to say, in this area close to the central region of the galaxy, there are many elites and many galaxy-level powerhouses. Wherever it looks like in the countryside, that is, in the Zerg domain and the Orion arm, it is difficult to find a galaxy class, let alone many galaxy classes. This leads to the fact that the relationship between the galaxy level and the territory lord is not as huge as the difference in strength. There are many who are equal. After all, it is impossible for a domain lord creature to have no social interaction. It is also impossible to find other domain lords. Everyone is an enemy. The only way is to find a mid-level creature that is weaker than itself, or a low-level creature. The Zerg Queen didn't have much idea about being on an equal footing with Jia Yan, but in this star field, she was like an ordinary soldier. It was simply impossible to be on an equal footing with the king. Two of you are too underestimated by other strong men of the same level. Jia Yan's face didn't look good either. In other star regions, how could he have been so despised? He had just been promoted, and his strength had improved a lot, and even his level had improved in name. This was originally something that made him very comfortable and happy, but suddenly two stupid young men came out to ruin his mood. Jia Yan said that he was very unhappy. A strong person of the same level? Haha, a creature that has just advanced to the next level still wants to talk to us about the same level. Let's wait until your strength stabilizes. When the other party heard Jia Yan's words, he burst into laughter. In their opinion, this is the case. Jia Yan was previously an elementary creature from the galaxy, and now he has just been promoted. His strength may still be at the peak of the elementary level. He is nominally at the same level as them, but he is so proud. Both creatures wanted to laugh. Jia Yan stopped talking. He avoided the attack of a mid-level galaxy creature, and the positive and negative forces in his body exploded, forcing another sneak attacker away with a pop. Then Jia Yan looked cold and stepped back into the subspace. The entire giant mosquito body disappeared into the starry sky in an instant. Oh! Have you used your subspace talents? Let me tell you, those of you who use subspace talents are all rubbish. If you can't beat them, you want to escape. If you can't escape, you will sneak into the depths. Every routine is the same. But you don't know that you are like this. He is a strong man, not a strong man at all, he just wants to escape. How can he have the heart to be a strong man? An enemy smiled coldly at the space around him. Sure enough, as mentioned before, they were not surprised at all by Jia Yan's subspace talent. It even sounds from their tone that subspace talents exist. In this star field, or the vast star area here, they are like rats crossing the street. No one recognizes their strength. Jia Yan's expression became more solemn inside the subspace. Only then did he remember that the other party was two galaxy-class people approaching the central region of the Milky Way. He must be well informed, which is pressure for Jia Yan. These two must have faced off against creatures with even multiple space talents, and even looked down upon them. Jia Yan didn't know what the shortcomings of creatures with subspace talents were, but if they faced off against each other many times, they would definitely have their own plans, so he had to be careful. Jia Yan had just rushed to the second dimension and was about to go around the back of a galaxy level and attack him fiercely from behind. But that galaxy level being actually seemed to have eyes on his back, suddenly aiming in the direction where Jia Yan was going to attack. Get out of here, you still want to make a sneak attack. What? Jia Yan looked shocked. He quickly backed away. Outside the subspace, this mid-level galaxy creature poured his attack power into the subspace behind him in one blow. Moreover, this attack has the effect of solidifying the subspace. It is not only as simple as breaking into the subspace and causing the subspace to distort and explode. Even the surrounding distortions seem to be solidified, making Jia Yan unable to move. Why is this happening? I can't escape. Jia Yan's face was ugly and he couldn't avoid it, so he could only bear the blow from this mid-level galaxy creature. Bang! In the subspace, the space vibrated. Jia Yan was hit by a hard blow and then flew backwards. In fact, the power of this blow was not strong enough. At least for Jia Yan, it was not as strong as the geniuses of the galaxy level in the Zerg domain that he had fought before. But unfortunately, they actually have combat skills that can prevent Jia Yan from moving freely in the subspace, which makes Jia Yan a little embarrassed. Fortunately, the strength was not strong enough. Jia Yan retreated directly and withstood the blow. The blue color on the surface of his body turned golden. You can actually withstand the attack of 80% of my power. Your defense is different from ordinary creatures with subspace talents. Is it very strong? The mid-level galaxy creature whose attack power was Jia Yan's was also a little surprised that Jia Yan could easily withstand his attack. After all, he has a lot of understanding of subspace gifted creatures. This subspace talented creature seems to have good subspace talent, but his understanding of subspace combat seems to be very simple. At least as soon as Jia Yan entered the subspace, he wanted to attack this mid-level galaxy from behind. When he saw the creature, the other party felt that Jia Yan's subdimensional strength was not as terrifying as imagined. Everyone's knowledge and combat experience are all very different. Fortunately, Jia Yan has at least experienced many strong men in the fierceness of battles, so even if he makes mistakes, he is not afraid of danger at this time. It is difficult for the opponent to attack the vital points of his body and injure him. Jia Yan was also settled, but the subspace talent was not easy to use, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. Who? Jia Yan continued to retreat, and when he retreated to the 5th level space, the other party was slightly surprised. When Jia Yan retreated to the 7th level space, the two outside galaxy mid-level creatures became shocked. When Jia Yan continued to retreat into the depths and disappeared on the 7th floor. When they couldn't feel where Jia Yan had gone, the expressions of these two mid-level galaxy creatures changed drastically. He was actually able to enter the 8th level. Isn't this a depth that can only be entered by a top subspace talent expert who reaches the galaxy level? Looking at his skills in using the subspace, it seems that he is not very powerful. He is actually able to enter the octave of the subspace. Could it be that his previous stupidity was just an act? Otherwise, it would be impossible for a creature that can enter the octave of the subspace. How stupid to be like this. Jia Yan, who was inside the 8-dimensional subspace, vaguely heard the voices of these two intergalactic creatures from the outside through his subspace talent. Suddenly, I heard him blush a little. Damn it, he already thought that his use of subspace was good enough, but in the eyes of these two people, it seemed that he couldn't be ranked at all. Instead, it was his act of squeezing into the subspace octave that shocked the other party. Of course, Jia Yan knew that his subspace talent was indeed quite powerful. In terms of available methods, being laughed at would be a bit embarrassing for him. If they knew that I actually have a certain ability to enter the 9th dimension, of course it won't take too long, they would be scared to death. Jia Yan looked at the depth of the 9-dimensional space behind him that was distorted to the point of silence, and then shook his head. This is not the time to show off, what he has to do now is to think about how to fight these two. Run away. If I run away now, I have a good chance. At least I don't think they can attack me in the 8th dimension. Even if there is a domain lord creature, if I activate Edisha here, and then enter the 10th degree in one breath, the domain lord will not be able to do much against me. Of course, if I have time to activate the Aditha spray, otherwise the other party attacks first, and I will die or be seriously injured in the 8th or even 9th degree. Jia Yan is thinking. Jia Yan has also thought about the possibility that there is a strong person behind the two mid-level galactic creatures on the other side. After all, it is impossible for two large intergalactic mid-level creatures to bump into each other casually and come out to fight with other galactic-level creatures. From the looks of them, they also feel like colleagues. This means that there should be someone behind the other party. A stronger one. Then there is an existence that can control the middle level of the galaxy. In addition to the Territory Lord, there are high-level creatures in the galaxy, but Jia Yan does not think that he can easily encounter high-level creatures in the galaxy. Even if the other party is really hostile, when the Zerg Queen flew over with an energy circle earlier, there are high-level creatures here. There is a way to stop the energy circle, instead of waiting for Jia Yan to get out of the energy circle before sending people over. Therefore, he judged that there must be a Domain Lord creature behind the other party. If there is a Domain Lord creature, and I want to leave safely, I have two options. First, of course, I will quickly use the Edisha now and leave directly. This first method is the safest and the best way to avoid unnecessary complications. Even if there is a territory lord, there is nothing he can do if I rush to the 10th degree. As for the second method, it is a bit dangerous. I quickly used fighting methods to directly defeat or even kill these two mid-level galaxy creatures. Then I launched the Edisha again and rushed to the Domain Master creature. The 10 degrees left that no one can catch up with. Jia Yan was thinking about which one would be most beneficial to him. The first is that he does not choose to fight and leaves directly. This method is actually very good and extremely safe. However, the second option is by no means without benefits. Choose the second way of fighting, that is, I can kill one of them, or even kill these two intermediary galaxies, and get what I want from them. When Jia Yan just heard that the other party had an average evaluation of his subspace talent, he felt something in his heart. Because of the way these two people spoke, I knew that they had experienced many battles with subspace talented people. And judging from the veteran look of them fighting, I also knew that they had definitely experienced hundreds of battles. Apart from the fact that their talents seem to be a bit lacking, their strength is very, very strong. If he gets some records on them, such as Shiyuan or other information, Jia Yan can get the promotion direction he wants through comparison, or he can find out his subdimensional talent by making some insinuations. Or even ways to improve strength in other aspects. For Jia Yan, this is like coming into contact with a new civilization and quickly obtaining information about this civilization. Moreover, these two mid-level galactic creatures are very suitable candidates. If Jia Yan kills someone who is too weak, it may not be of any use to him. And those that are too strong, such as Domain Lord creatures, he has to kill them. After thinking about it, these two mid-level galactic creatures are not too strong and seem to have lived for a long time. So instead of killing two, kill one of them, and then rob them of a backpack like the Aditha. Give it to Edisha to analyze and take out the materials and information, which is a big gain. Dear, click in and give a good review. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that those who give full marks to the new ones finally find beautiful wives. The mobile site has a new revision and upgrade address, data and bookmarks are synchronized with the computer site, no ads. Refreshing reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1900. That's right, then my position is to kill one of them quickly, and then grab their supplies, and maybe the star core I need. Jia Yan basically set the tone for what was to be done next. Boom. In the subspace, he suddenly displayed his yin and yang dao. When he broke through before, Jia Yan discovered that after his yin-yang dao broke through, the pure positive and negative power could already increase his speed in the subspace. The more pure the positive and negative power of yin and yang dao you use, the faster it will be. At the explosion speed in the 8-dimensional subspace, if you move a little bit in the subspace, you can move a huge distance. The distance he can move is extremely far. Humph, run away. I can feel him leaving. You bastard, you actually escaped. How can we repay you when we go back? Oh, forget it, I have considered everything, but I have not considered that this guy can enter the 8-dimensional subspace. I guess you adults will not complain too much about us. After all, we can't deal with the strong ones who have entered the 8-dimensional space. The two mid-level galactic creatures shook their heads helplessly. But they didn't know that Jia Yan, who had just left a certain distance, immediately dived into a deeper subspace after taking a step away. These people seem to be very good at dealing with subspace gifted creatures. Although I don't know what methods they use, as long as I enter the 9th subspace and try to suppress my strength when I appear, they must not be able to do anything. It would be easy to find me just like seeing a person in the ordinary starry sky. Jia Yan silently returned to the subspace he left before. But this time it was deeper, even briefly entering the 9th dimension. At this depth, let alone a mid-level galaxy creature, even a domain lord level creature would find it difficult to simply discover him. Of course, it is almost impossible for Jia Yan to attack others from here. With that strength, he can break through to the normal starry sky layer by layer and attack others. His strength is at least that of a domain lord. If you have the strength of a domain lord, what else can you say? Just go out and kill them. I'm going out in a little bit. In the subspace, Jia Yan silently squeezed out his body bit by bit along the place he entered previously. The power of yin and yang seemed to form a cycle in his body, allowing his body's power to hardly leak out. In this way, it will be difficult for the outside world to detect where he is through power detection. Moreover, even though these two mid-level galactic creatures have the means to explore subspace, they are not subspace-talented creatures no matter what. Jia Yan went out and came back again, and even changed places. For non-subspace creatures, it is impossible to cover a large area all the time, to detect his existence all the time, right? Yes, although Jia Yan looked like he was returning to the same place, he was actually 500 kilometers away from where he had just left. For subspace creatures, 500 kilometers in subspace is not that far. In the normal starry sky, 500 kilometers is considered considerable. At least Jia Yan is sure that the opponent has no subspace talent and wants to cover 500 kilometers. In the subspace range, it should not be possible to keep vigilant against him. Sure enough, it didn't attract their attention. Jia Yan's compound eyes were shining with brilliance. The brilliance in his eyes tells the story of the fun of the next sneak attack. Jia Yan discovered that no matter how much his combat power had been improved, he still enjoyed the fun of sneak attacks. Perhaps when he was young, being hailed as an assassin still affected his mentality to this day. Moreover, he assassinated others and left instantly without suffering any injuries. This fighting method was quite cool for Jia Yan. Unfortunately, his battles often did not achieve what he wanted. This time, give it a try. Jia Yan tiptoes, even before some distortions that have great impact, he will pause for a moment, and then use the distortion and turbulence in the subspace to silently change directions with the distortion. To the maximum extent, ensure that the enemy will not discover you. Buzz buzz. As he forged ahead in the subspace, he finally reached the second-dimensional subspace. As for the two mid-level galactic creatures, because they were a bit far apart, they also thought that Jia Yan had left and relaxed their vigilance. It's now. Boom. Between heaven and earth, there was a sudden sound in the outside world of this subspace. What? Not good. The two intermediate galaxy creatures had just discussed how to explain it later, but they never expected that the newly promoted intermediate galaxy creature who had already left would dare to come back. Killing them with a single shot seemed impossible to them. After all, this guy doesn't seem to have anything worthy of praise except for his subspace talent, but he actually dares to come back, which is so unexpected. Because of the unexpected situation, one of the Zing levels was a little startled when his back was turned to Jia Yan. And this moment of confusion made him suffer the consequences. Puff. Jia Yan, who was so fast that it was unimaginable, bursting out with all his positive and negative power, appeared from the subspace at such a speed that he used his front legs like flying to pierce the vital part of the monster's back. Well. There was a heart on the back of this creature's back. At this time, the heart seemed to have no resistance at all and was stabbed by Jia Yan. Why? The eyes of this mid-level galaxy being were widened. He couldn't believe that his vital defenses could not prevent even a trace of such a sneak attack. You know, because he had his own weakness here, he worked hard to build this place into an iron wall. But I never expected that it would be defeated with just one attack. Damn it! On the other side, another mid-level galaxy creature next to this mid-level galaxy creature was also furious. Both of them were careless. They knew clearly that the talent of this strange visitor at the galaxy level was a subdimensional talent, but they dared to discuss how to reply later when the other party was not sure about leaving. Of course, this has something to do with the fact that they are in their own star field, and even the domain master creatures are here. After all, they will never believe that an outsider dares to cause destruction in their home, or even take action to kill someone. Under the gaze of the domain master creature, the other party must have the chance to escape as far as possible. But what they never expected was that the enemy would be so bold. Actually, it's not that Jia Yan is brave, it's that he hasn't figured out what kind of opponent he's facing until now. Even though I had some guesses that there would be a territory lord behind the two mid-level Milky Way creatures I faced, I never thought that this place would be very close to that territory lord creature. Huh? How brave! Just when Jia Yan severely injured this mid-level galaxy creature with one blow, and he was not sure whether he was alive or dead, a startled voice suddenly sounded from far away from here, hundreds of millions of kilometers away. In addition to surprise, there was also a hint of embarrassment in his voice. He asked his two subordinates to come over and kill a chess piece left behind by a strange domain lord, but he never expected that this chess piece would actually have the power to kill the strong men in his past. This made his previous remarks a bit of a slap in the face. What's more, the mid-level creatures in the galaxy are not just cabbages on the roadside. Even for the domain lord creatures, there are not many subordinates of the mid-level creatures in the galaxy. If one of them dies, he will be angry to death. Boom! This domain lord creature moved instantly. He wanted to see for himself why this creature who dared to touch his subordinates was so bold. Coming. When the domain master creature moved, Jia Yan, who was hundreds of millions of kilometers away, also tensed up. He didn't even have time to look at the mid-level galaxy creature who was seriously injured by him. In an instant, he put the backpack on his back, stretched out his other front foot, hooked it, then untied it and pulled it in front of him. Country boy, die. On the other side, the mid-level galaxy creature who looked at his colleague and was seriously injured by Jia Yan's sneak attack with a bad expression unleashed his full attack. The attack power of mid-level creatures in the galaxy is naturally not simple. The guy who was seriously injured by Jia Yan's blow would probably not have been injured by him if Jia Yan hadn't taken him by surprise. Huh? This attack is actually a desperate move. It's too late to kill that guy. Run away. Jia Yan made a judgment in an instant, and quickly gave up on the idea of killing the seriously injured mid-level galaxy creature with one more blow, and immediately made preparations to escape. Don't try to escape. Intermediate creatures in the galaxy naturally know that their domain lord has crossed the endless galaxy and is about to come here to kill Jia Yan. He didn't want Jia Yan to escape. You want to stop me? Humph. Jia Yan just wanted to get into the subspace, but he felt that the entire subspace was destroyed by the opponent's angry power, making it impossible to get in. It is obvious that this mid-level galaxy creature is very experienced in dealing with creatures with natural talents in the first dimension. If Jia Yan hadn't seriously injured the other one, he would probably still be in a hurry when facing the two of them joining forces. But things didn't go as planned. Jia Yan injured one of them and took off his backpack. This was his current result, and no one could deny it. Get out of my way. Jia Yan used one of his hind legs to hit the opponent's attacking fist hard. The hind foot collided with the enemy's fist that exploded with full force. As a result, Jia Yan was once again deeply shocked by how powerful the mid-level creatures in the galaxy in this starry sky were. You know, he was able to cross levels and kill mid-level galaxies before. Although he has just reached mid-level galaxies, he feels that he should not have any big problem against an ordinary-looking mid-level galaxies. That's right. But in this collision, he actually suffered a huge backlash again. The opponent's fist was fine, and his hind legs were almost broken off by the blast. Fortunately, after this blow, he got the forward force of the confrontation. With this force, he flew within the 200 kilometers blocked by the opponent. The middle level being from the galaxy had to retreat dozens of kilometers due to the counter-shock force of the bombardment, and instantly distanced himself from Jia Yan. Boy, where can I escape? And just when Jia Yan thought that he would definitely be able to fly out of the unstable zone of subspace and escape, in the starry sky, it felt like the sky was about to collapse, and an earth-shattering sound rang in his ears. Puff! Jia Yan only felt that his internal organs were instantly shaken. Even the azure defense couldn't resist it, and the whole body felt like it was being hollowed out. Territory Lord creature. It is indeed powerful. This was the first time that Jia Yan truly felt the terror of a domain lord creature, and his heart was shocked. You know, this is still because the opponent has not reached him. If he is chased by him, wouldn't he have to kneel down instantly? Escape. He no longer cares about whether he can enter another dimension. Squeeze hard and enter the first level of subspace. The first floor you entered was like a mess. The first level space that used to be extremely peaceful is now resisting Jia Yan's entry, because the enemy has used disordered power to completely disrupt this subspace. Ah! Jia Yan felt a bit of severe pain, because this time the random twisting in the space cut off a piece of his body. If he hadn't been a being with extraordinary talent in subspace and tried his best to avoid more dangerous places, he might have been seriously injured. And even if you're seriously injured, it's better than dying, right? Being chased by a domain lord level being, if you catch up, you will die. There is no possibility of counterattack. Jia Yan is quite confident and a bit arrogant, but no matter how arrogant he is, after coming into contact with the Zerg Queen, he will not think that he can compete with a domain lord level creature. A domain master creature can be said to be the most pinnacle existence in the entire galaxy. It is also the one in the starry sky that can easily kill ordinary mid-level existences in the galaxy. What's more, the coming territory lord doesn't seem to be weak in strength. Even compared to the Zerg Queen, it doesn't seem to be much worse. This shows that if the opponent comes, Jia Yan will definitely be killed in one blow, and there is no other possibility at all. So if he doesn't escape, he will die. Blow it up. Jia Yan couldn't wait any longer. He happened to have a piece of body tissue cut open by the subspace earlier. He controlled the stripped body tissue to explode inside the subspace. Every tissue in Jia Yan's body contains positive and negative forces. And the positive and negative forces can be said to be numerous. If any one detonates, it will have far more power than the meteorite explosives he changed. At this moment, there was a piece of such tissue that exploded behind him. Boom! Within one layer of the subspace, an earth-shattering explosion lit up. Jia Yan felt an extra push behind him. With this thrust, he let his body fly forward like flying. One layer, go right through. But physically, there were many more injuries. On the second floor, there was not so much distortion and chaos, and the physical injuries became less. Dear, click in and give a good review. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that those who give full marks to the new ones finally find beautiful wives. The mobile site has a new revision and upgrade address, data and bookmarks are synchronized with the computer site, no ads. Refreshing reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1901. There is no chaos at all on the third floor. After all, it is almost impossible for a creature without subspace talent to induce chaos above the third floor of subspace. Otherwise, it is not that they do not have subspace talent, but they have it. Subspace talent is the right thing. 4. Jia Yan just thought silently whether he could borrow the power of the explosion to enter the 4th level of subspace. But behind him, there was already an earth-shattering and unimaginable power, surging incomparably from the outside of the subspace to the inside of the subspace. Boy, since you have hurt my people, then please stay with me. This power can be said to be far beyond Jia Yan's imagination. As soon as the voice sounded, the surging force of this power completely enveloped Jia Yan's body. Click. On the surface of Jia Yan's body, the seemingly extremely hard blue defense and the golden defense with a golden color suddenly became fragmented. Jia Yan groaned, shocked in his heart, and quickly exploded part of the tissue shell of his body that had already broken out of the body. In the crash, the vibration caused a large amount of distortion in the subspace. The terrifying power that came was within the 3rd layer of the space, and the whole thing was knocked around. Jia Yan's strength was slightly loosened. You must know that the power of Jia Yan's own explosion can be said to be the most terrifying explosive power among any skills he has mastered. And this only allowed Jia Yan to get rid of the other party's control, which shows how terrifying this person is. Oh! 100 million kilometers away in the subspace, a monster that was 100 kilometers in size was slightly startled. Then, he sneered and continued to release his power. That's right, this strong man forced Jia Yan to that field instantly, but his true body was still hundreds of millions of kilometers away. This is terrible. Blow it up again. Jia Yan also became angry. After all, he knew that if the other party really arrived in front of him, then he would no longer have the slightest possibility of escape, so he might as well fight to the death to win. And this time, he won big. The rear foot is directly and actively disconnected. Detonating the hind legs behind him, it exploded instantly. The terrifying power pushed Jia Yan forward in an instant. As for the terrifying power that is chasing behind it, because it is still too far away, it is impossible for the Domain Lord creature to arrive and release it in person. Therefore, this power was cut off by the hind legs, and the feet that were dozens of kilometers long exploded. It can be said that this is the most powerful power that Jia Yan can activate now. The more powerful one will have to self-destruct his whole body. Of course, if he self-destructs, he will die. Therefore, the hind leg of self-destruction is directly the most terrifying power that Jia Yan can use now that he is alive. Outside the subspace, the living mid-level creature from the galaxy felt that Jia Yan was able to create such terrifying power, and was so frightened that he quickly stepped back a distance. His retreat was very useful, because within less than half a second of retreating, the explosion of power in the subspace reached him in an instant. Breaking through the subspace, the normal space was completely shaken, and countless huge forces were sprayed around. It was as powerful as an asteroid explosion. How could it be, if he had used this kind of power just now, both of us would have died. This mid-level galaxy creature has an ugly face. Every galaxy-level creature has its own trump card, and he knows this, but his own trump card is not powerful at all. At least compared to the power of the opponent's trump card, he thought he was incompetent, and there was a huge gap. If Jia Yan had used this self-destructive trump card just now, both of them might have died in the starry sky. No, since he has such a terrifying trump card, there is a certain possibility that what he said is true. That means that the domain master creature who came to our star domain before did not understand our area at all. The rules of the star territory. This mid-level galaxy creature suddenly understood this. Because no territory lord would throw such a powerful galaxy-level creature as a chess piece. After all, if the opponent advances, this terrifyingly powerful trump card is the creature's maximum combat power, and it will have a trace of it against the territory lord's help. He understood that this mid-level creature from the galaxy might really just stay and advance in their star field. But now it's too late to understand, because the hatred between the two sides has been forged. He must die. No, he will definitely die. After all, the adults took action personally. This mid-level galaxy creature has an extremely solemn expression. Such a killer creature may cause life-threatening danger to any mid-level galaxy creature in this star field, even if it is a person in their star field. Creatures that are about to be promoted to the Domain Lord level may be slightly injured if they are hit by this power. This is a serious matter. Even if he improves his strength to a certain extent, in the future, even the mid-level creatures that are about to be promoted to the Domain Lord level may die in his hands. The power of this guy's explosion is too terrifying. This mid-level galaxy creature thought about what kind of self-destruction method Jia Yan had, but after thinking for a long time, he couldn't find the answer. Of course he didn't know the answer, because Jia Yan used a self-created cultivation method that was completely different from the mainstream cultivation methods, that is, Yin and Yang Tao. It sounds like the above thought took a long time, but in fact, it only lasted a short moment. The four-dimensional abilities of the mid-level creatures in the galaxy are naturally extremely impressive. They only spend a negligible amount of time thinking about it. Want to escape? At this moment, the Domain Lord creature that was as huge as 100 kilometers in size was obviously thinking a lot. He was indeed a little shocked. Although they were hundreds of millions of kilometers apart, the Territory Lord was still the Territory Lord. He used his brainwave power to attack, and he must be able to capture a mere mid-level galaxy creature that had just been promoted. But Jia Yan was able to get rid of his own brainwave power, which made him a little surprised. At the same time, he also thought that this was the opponent's trump card. In order to avoid future troubles, he was going to take action. But at this time, Jia Yan took advantage of the explosion of his hind legs and flew into the fourth level. In the fourth level space, even if it cannot stop the strength of the Domain Master creature, it already has a certain weakening power. Closer. The fourth level of space can't even weaken the opponent's strength much. What should we do next? The tension in Jia Yan's heart was extremely serious. He didn't want to fall into the hands of this Domain Lord creature. If he killed a mid-level galaxy creature, he would not receive any courtesy. Perhaps killing him on the spot would be the most likely option. Boom. In the outer world of the starry sky, the Domain Master creature that has arrived 8,000 kilometers away has once again used its brainwave power. But at this moment, Jia Yan finally made a decision. Mid-food, blast it for me. At this moment, he was completely determined. Following his shout, the middle foot of the giant mosquito automatically detached itself from the body. It instantly flew into the subspace behind it, and then aroused the positive and negative forces inside, and suddenly exploded. Boom. At the same time, the Domain Master's biological power coming from the outside also blasted into the subspace. Jia Yan's pair of mid-foots, and the coming power, suddenly bombarded one place, resisting a large amount of Domain Lord biological power. But that's it, there's still a little bit left, and the resistance has not been completed. He still rushed to Jia Yan's body, even though he didn't pull him, it still made Jia Yan's whole body shake, and then he spurted out a mouthful of blood. Seriously injured. At the same time, Jia Yan used the power of self-destruction to push against the opponent's power, and then rushed into the fifth level space. Fifth floor. Once here, even the power of the Domain Lord creature will be greatly weakened. No, I am seriously injured. Jia Yan's fourth dimension was almost in chaos. Only now did he finally understand the horror of Domain Lord creatures. As expected of an existence that can beat an entire star field to pieces, this Domain Lord creature is indeed terrifyingly powerful. Maybe a planet like the Earth would explode if it was bombed by the opponent? Jia Yan admitted that he did not have such fighting power. But no matter how strong he is, he still has to run away. Jia Yan can't give up his desire to survive just because the opponent is stronger. And the more this happens, the happier Jia Yan will escape. Because the Territory Lord creature is so terrifying, but Jia Yan has also reached the middle level of the galaxy, and will be very close to this terrifying Territory Lord level in the future. When he reaches the Territory Lord level himself, he should have such strength, right? Damn it, if I reach the Domain Lord level, I will come and kill this guy then. Damn it, you forced me so hard. Jia Yan cursed in his heart. But what's the use of scolding? The other party is stronger, he is really much stronger than Jia Yan. When he entered the 5th floor, the Domain Lord creature didn't pause much at all, and blasted out another wave of power. I don't believe it. Can you use this trump card again? The other party really didn't believe that the chasing mid-level galaxy creature had a trump card with similar power. The reason why a trump card is a trump card is that it can only be used once or twice. If it can be used infinitely, it is not called a trump card, but a regular fighting method. Of course, the little guy who escaped used the trump card of self-destruction, and he should have used it more often, but no matter how he thought about it, he didn't think that every organ of the opponent could have such power. Although he didn't understand the principle of power, in his opinion, it was just that this little guy used a lot of his energy to conceive and raise several important organs, and then let those organs explode, which would be very powerful. But he didn't think other organs could have such power. Die for me, this time. This Domain Lord creature is already close to a distance of 5,000 kilometers. At this time, the power of the brainwave power that he burst out was already very powerful. Even if it was as close as the closest, it still had a huge power limit. But after all, he was so close, and the brainwave power crushed a mid-level galaxy to death. The first-time creature is still very simple. But at this moment, something happened that shocked him. Explode the front feet for me too. I don't believe it. If the front feet explode, the power will not be as powerful as the rear feet and the middle feet. Jia Yan's giant Mosquito's compound eyes flashed with endless hatred and anger. That's right, he made the decision in an instant and wanted to explode with his front feet. You know, Jia Yan's front feet have always been his powerful combat weapon, and it cannot be overemphasized. The energy here is much stronger than that of the rear foot and mid-foot, which are not used much. When the front legs exploded, Jia Yan instantly became a legless insect without any weapons to fight. But in this situation, he couldn't do it without exploding, because otherwise he would die. Burst. At this moment, he didn't stop much at all, and exploded his front foot violently. Click. The front foot exploded violently and broke off. Then, the front foot suddenly became a disconnected body again, and severe pain appeared in Jia Yan's heart. Obviously, in the battle just now, Jia Yan was not in such pain when the middle leg of his rear foot was severed, but now, the loss of the front foot, which was his main combat weapon, caused Jia Yan a kind of heart-wrenching pain. This pain is not only physical pain, but also mental pain. Unexpectedly, he had reached the middle level of galaxy and still had to be chased to such an extent by a strong man. Even Jia Yan rarely suffered injuries of this level in his past life as a strong man. It was simply humiliating. I'm useless myself, so I can't blame others, but I'll put my words here. If I reach the Territory Lord level one day, I will come back and destroy the star field with my own hands, and kill the Territory Lord of the star field directly. Kill him. Only in this way can I relieve my hatred. Jia Yan made this vow. Of course, an oath is an oath, and while he was still swearing, he quickly jumped forward. And the next moment, the sound and power of the front foot explosion hit Jia Yan's body fiercely. Boom. As for the opponent's domain master's energy, this is what he can achieve. The terrifying power caused the mid-level galaxy creature outside to be severely knocked away by the force of the explosion, with shock on his face. What the hell is this galaxy intermediate? Its trump card is getting more powerful every time. With this kind of power, if it really kills the enemy, it would probably kill even the higher level beings in the galaxy intermediate. He no longer knew what words to use to describe the shock he felt now. Find bookstore. It was obvious that the opponent was a mid-level star who had just advanced to the galaxy, and it seemed that Xandu's experience was not very powerful, but it happened that his trump card was so powerful. He was wondering if he had to thank this person, otherwise if he had used this kind of combat weapon just now, neither of them would have survived. No, sir, can he still break through your energy this time? After all, sir, we are already within a distance of 50 million kilometers. He suddenly remembered that the other party had erupted with such terrifying power at this time just to resist the strength of his domain master's creature. He quickly went into the subspace and stared solemnly at it again. In his heart, he extremely hoped that this mid-level creature from the galaxy would die here now. Otherwise, it is very likely that it will really become a hidden danger in the future. Dear, click in and give a good review. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that those who give full marks to the new ones finally find beautiful wives. The mobile site has a new revision and upgrade address, data and bookmarks are synchronized with the computer site, no ads. Refreshing reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1902. Not only the middle-level survivor of the galaxy is looking forward to Jia Yan's death. Even the domain lord creature coming behind him was thinking the same thing. He also saw Jia Yan's potential. Although it is far from being a threat to a domain lord creature, the potential of the other party is indeed quite great. If he waits until he reaches the peak of the middle level of the galaxy and returns to his star domain, he will guard outside the star domain. To do damage, unless he personally goes out to chase this subspace gifted creature all the way, other subordinates and the like will be troubled by this mid-level galaxy creature. This is a very scary thing. After all, a creature that understands the talent of subspace has reached the peak of the middle level of the galaxy. The threat is too great. Even though the creatures in the star field here are not so unfamiliar with the existence of subspace talents, they still have a bit of a headache with the creatures with subspace talents, especially the powerful ones. Die to me. Thinking of this, an astonishing murderous aura burst out from the eyes of the domain lord creature. He suddenly increased his brainwave power. He was going to blow away the power of self-destruction in one breath, and then directly catch and explode the creatures inside that were about to escape into the sixth dimension. Boom! In the fifth dimension of the subspace, which is close to the sixth dimension, the terrifying power of the explosion from behind blew up Jia Yan himself and spurted blood from his mouth. But the thrust was also huge, instantly blowing Jia Yan into the deep six-dimensional space. Very good, with the power of self-destruction, I can quickly enter the sixth degree, and it is even possible to enter the seventh degree, and I don't have to go to the seventh degree. Before that, I can open the backpack of the Aditha, launch the jet, and let the eye quickly pushed into the 10-dimensional subspace, so even a domain lord creature would never be able to attack me. Jia Yan silently felt the push coming from behind, and his whole body was completely solemn. Without 6 legs, this was also his first experience. Especially the disappearance of the front legs, for Jia Yan, it was like abandoning all his weapons. It's really, really heartbreaking. But this heartache also has a reward, that is, the explosive power behind it is extremely terrifying. If he still wants to pursue him, he will feel that the power of the self-destruction is different from the previous ones. Jia Yan silently felt the explosion behind him. Because within the fifth dimension, he can be sure that the creatures in the outside world, not even the domain lords, will know so much about the power of this time. As expected, Jia Yan once again felt that the domain master creature behind him suddenly released extremely terrifying brainwave power. Suddenly, it poured into the subspace, and then rushed towards Jia Yan, suddenly chasing and killing him. Come! Chase to the back of Jia Yan. However, before that, he had to break through the space where Jia Yan just exploded with his front foot. Disperse the power of self-destruction. Territory Lord creatures are territory Lord creatures. It is impossible to wait for the power of self-destruction to dissipate. Instead, they go on a rampage, trying to blow away this power directly. But what made this domain Lord creature a little stunned was that he actually felt the power of the explosion for a moment, and the power that he finally spilled into the fifth dimension of the subspace was resisted for a moment. Although it was only a moment, it was already very significant. You know, he is a domain master creature. Moreover, the subspace creature escaping in front had already escaped into the sixth dimension. Taking advantage of this opportunity, it seemed that something had been opened. Puff! Jia Yan, who was inside the sixth dimension, turned on the engine on the Edisha. Like an explosion, a special jet force appeared in the entire space that could cause huge thrust in the subspace. What? He actually has such a technological item. Oh no, the speed suddenly accelerated. The domain master creature was so anxious that he quickly blew away the terrifying self-destruction power. This moment of stagnation represented Jia Yan's victory. When the power was greatly weakened and he was chasing him into the six-dimensional space ahead, Jia Yan had already started spraying. The distortion resistance in the sixth dimensional space is vastly different from that in the fifth dimensional space. Originally, this power could chase him to the sixth dimension without much pressure, but when he was in the fifth dimension, he used part of his strength to blow away Jia Yan's self-exploding forefoot, so the power that reaches the sixth degree is only 1/5 of what it was when it was sent out. With this fifth, it is almost impossible to chase down Jia Yan, who has already started spraying. Asshole! The domain master creature has arrived here quickly from outside the subspace. The distance of 100 million kilometers is like a joke to the domain master creatures. They arrive easily, not slower than the speed of light. Even this is because the other party does not use super long distance fast travel methods. Of course, the ultra long distance driving methods of creatures are not suitable for close range raids. After all, the long distance driving method is a bit uncontrollable. But at such a fast speed, he actually watched his prey run into the subspace. Humph, it's still early. This domain lord creature, unwilling to give up, continued to release his own strength, and suddenly poured his most powerful strength into the subspace. Boom! The brainwave power erupted by a territory lord creature at a close distance is so terrifying. Just look at the middle-level galaxy student beside him who has retreated a lot at this time. It seems that he has suffered a huge explosion. Pushing, still going backwards at this time, retreating hundreds of kilometers away, and then barely resisting the shock of the aftermath of the force, we can see the clues. And inside the subspace, the first, second, third, fourth, and even fifth floors of the subspace that were confronted by this force did not feel that its power was weakened at all. Only when he entered the sixth level space did his power feel a little bit restrained by the subspace. Rush all the way to the seventh floor. At this time, inside the seventh level of subspace, Jia Yan had just rushed over and entered the eighth level. Chase me! The domain master creature controlled its own power, gritted its teeth, and pursued fiercely. Boom boom boom. The resistance in the seventh level space is already extremely huge. Suddenly, he chased through the eighth level, and Jia Yan could barely escape the eighth level space at this time. The Edissa has helped him move forward at a very fast speed. But Jia Yan still felt the power of the domain master creature coming around him suddenly. It's so fast. The strength of the domain master's creature is terrifying and exaggerated. He had known for a long time that the Territory Lord creature had the strength to chase down a creature to the 8th level of the subspace, even if he was not a creature with a subspace talent. However, he never thought that the Territory Lord creature could actually do this. In a short period of time, he projected his power into the 8th level subspace. This made Jia Yan feel like a Domain Lord creature, and he was indeed worthy of his reputation. Humph. So what if you can reach the 8th degree? Your power has already been greatly weakened. Jia Yan looked solemnly, looking at the power that invaded the 8-dimensional space, and fiercely released his brainwave power with all his strength. Boom! Within the subspace, the two forces instantly bombarded together like a tide. Then, Jia Yan only felt that the power in front of him was like an extremely hard steel, blasting his whole body so suddenly that a layer of skin was peeled off all over his body. This power is too terrifying. Jia Yan used his yin and yang Dao explosive power, not just a little bit, but with all his strength. But the yin and yang Dao power that was mobilized with all its strength was still completely unable to resist the Domain Lord's power, which was already in the subspace and had been greatly weakened. At most, it was only 1/10 of its initial strength. Puff! Jia Yan only felt that his body was exploded by this force irresistibly, and he almost died. Save the Edisha. At this moment, he only had this thought. Because once the Edisha is destroyed, he can really only stay in this octave and withstand the opponent's attack, otherwise he will definitely die. Fortunately, the power he released was still able to withstand 99% of the power of Domain Lord creatures. It is estimated that the other party did not expect that Jia Yan actually had the strength to fight against a Domain Lord creature in this 8-dimensional space. Therefore, after being helped by Jia Yan to resist the force several times, the Edissa emits a faint protective light. The power that spilled over to the Edissa no longer had the slightest destructive power. Ha ha ha, I can't resist it anymore, Edisha, come on. Jia Yan almost felt that he was going to die. Good. Edissa responded nervously inside the Edissa. The brain of this little mosquito naturally knew that this was an extremely tense moment. If it slowed down a little, Jia Yan would die. Puff! The Edissa once again erupted with a desperate burst of engine power. You actually blocked me. Die! At this moment, the Domain Master creature outside could hardly believe his eyes. Several times, this escaped mid-level creature from the galaxy, or a being who had just reached the mid-level galaxy, actually escaped his pursuit. And this time it was even more exaggerated. He personally went to the outside of the subspace and used almost all his strength. Although the brainwave power of the opponent was blocked by 8 consecutive subspaces, the power that could affect the opponent should be able to severely damage the opponent. However, what was unexpected was that the opponent was not seriously injured, and the technological items also exploded. Produce more powerful thrust. Boom boom boom. He continued to release shockingly powerful brainwave power. But at this moment, when his strength reached the 8th degree, the Edisha had already pushed the seriously injured Jia Yan into the 9th dimension. Asshole! After entering the 9th dimension, the power of the Domain Master creature can be said to be very low. Even if there is still a trace, it can attack Jia Yan, but Jia Yan is not seriously injured to the point of being completely unable to move. He can barely bring up a trace of brainwave power. Once the brainwave power released by this Domain Lord is offset, the other party's power will no longer be there. Ha ha ha, Territory Lord, that's all. Wait, I will come back for revenge in the future. Jia Yan's laughter came from inside the subspace. Following this sound, he rushed directly into the 10-dimensional subspace. And once there, even the Domain Lord creature cannot attack. Asshole, you still said you wanted to come back for revenge. The Domain Master creature was outside the subspace, and he was furious. Very good, you said you wanted to come back for revenge, right? I'm waiting for you. The voice of this domain lord creature seemed to be heard by Jia Yan, who was immersed in the subspace 10 degrees. Snort. Jia Yan felt that the speed around him suddenly began to increase. He quickly flew forward and left the place, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. The Edissa was not damaged at all, which is the best news. Edisha, I didn't expect it to save my life again this time. After the rebirth of the Edissa, Jia Yan knew that the Edissa was an excellent life-saving technological item. Unexpectedly, it actually saved his life this time. If it weren't for this technological backpack, he would have died in subspace just now. After all, his subdimensional strength at this time, even if he can come and go freely in the 8th degree, is still limited to the 9th degree. Even in the 9th degree, the opponent's attack power can still reach it. Is he waiting for me? Very good. Then I will quickly improve my strength. I will be back soon. Jia Yan sneered. The hatred in his heart was already very deep. You know, he hasn't been so embarrassed in a long time. The last time I faced the siege of so many galaxy-level creatures, I had never been so embarrassed. It should be said that the Territory Lord creature is worthy of being a Territory Lord creature. Jia Yan really never thought that a Territory Lord creature could have such terrifying strength. He was a little disrespectful to the Zerg Queen before. Although he knew that the other party was stronger than himself, he often thought that the distance would be much smaller after he reached the middle level of the galaxy. But looking at it now, the gap is still huge. But now, should I catch up with the Zerg Queen directly? If I catch up, I will be seriously injured, and I will inevitably be coveted by some. Jia Yan was silent for a while. According to the initial itinerary, he was going to catch up with the Zerg Queen and her party. After all, a breakthrough has been made. But the situation today is different. His body was so badly injured that he lost even his attack weapon, his front feet. When he goes back, I won't say whether the Zerg Queen will give him the energy to repair it. I just say that after he goes back, his status may plummet in a short period of time. In addition, there are many creatures that are hostile to Jia Yan. In the meantime, they don't know how to do small tricks. That's right, when we get to the center of the galaxy, there will probably be a lot of strong people like this. The Queen of the Zerg wants us to accompany her just to help us fight. If I go back like this and someone else tricks me into fighting, then, with my strength greatly reduced, wouldn't I turn into cannon fodder and die? Jia Yan analyzed. The Queen of the Zerg is not a completely benevolent person. If she thinks that Jia Yan is disabled and will not be able to progress or improve his combat effectiveness in the future, it is very possible for him to die. Dear, click in and give a good review. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that those who give full marks to the new ones finally find beautiful wives. The mobile site has a new revision and upgrade address, data and bookmarks are synchronized with the computer site, no ads. Refreshing reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1903. If Jia Yan really can't repair it, that's it, but he knows that he has a way to repair himself. That is, he can use his mutation and a large amount of energy to repair his body. Even because of the defeat in this battle, the body itself has caused genetic changes. The mutations will repair and process several of his failed body organs, making his body stronger. Then, the next trip is very simple. That is, I won't pursue you for the time being. After all, I have a reason. The Queen of Zerg will probably not pursue her. It will be fine if we go over after a while. I'll first find a suitable place, get some energy that will allow me to mutate, and strengthen my body, and then repair the damage. It's just that my body is now at the middle level of the galaxy. If I want to repair it, the energy level will definitely be difficult to find. It must be at least something like a star core, or even better. How long will it take to find it? There's no way to predict. Forget it, let's take it one step at a time. It's important to find a place where there aren't many strong people first. Jia Yan thought about his plan. For him, the first thing that comes to mind is definitely not loyalty, otherwise he would not be able to have an equal relationship with the Zerg Queen. So he will definitely only think about his own life. At this time, his physical injuries are very serious, and his attack and combat power is weakened by more than half. In this case, if he encounters a mid-level galaxy creature of the same level, he may lose. Apart from using subspace talent to escape, he had no other choice. With this kind of strength, catching up with the Zerg Queen wouldn't be of much help, and it might even become the target of others' calculations. Simply stop chasing. Boom. Within the subspace, Jia Yan was extremely fast. After all, the Edisha pushed him into 10 degrees of subspace in one breath. It's been a long time since he returned to the 10th dimension. Jia Yan felt the extremely silent darkness around him, giving him a faint sense of aftertaste. Perhaps this kind of silence is the same everywhere. Within the gravitational wave system, it seems that there is also silence and no movement in the depths. Deep in the starry sky of the universe, it seems that there is also this kind of silence. The same is true for several other similar things. As well as the interior of the black hole, and even the future direction of the universe, may also lead to eternal darkness. He felt a little emotional in his heart. The current universe, although it seems to be extremely active, will eventually become extinct. Because the universe is constantly expanding, but interstellar positive matter is no longer born. So in the future, I don't know how many years after the expansion of the universe, galaxies, and even planets, will be so far away that they cannot be seen, that is, the distance will be farther than the speed of light, and they will move away from each other faster than the speed of light. If there is no super light movement ability and no one spends endless time chasing other planets that have left, then a newly born civilization will probably think that the star system where its own civilization is located will be the only one in the universe. Star system, they are the only race in the universe. Maybe at that time, the entire universe will exist differently. Silent, without any bright color, just like the 10th dimension of the subspace where Jia Yan is now, seemingly dark, but also full of danger. Well, you don't have to think about it so much. I don't know how many billions of years it will take. It's absolutely impossible for any living thing today, including me, to live that long. Why do I need to worry so much? Jia Yan smiled slightly, feeling that his worries were unfounded. Whether the universe is what scientists have concluded and whether it will continue to develop as scientists predicted is still unknown. In short, Jia Yan is not a scientist or an astronomer. All he wants to do is to improve his own strength and see the end of the supreme power in the universe. Compared to living like the universe for eternity, he felt that this was more reliable. Of course, his first goal now is to repair his miserable body. Poof. Within the 10-dimensional space, Jia Yan silently endured the twisting power fluctuations from the outside world. Fortunately, the Edissa was fast enough, and its advancement allowed him to withstand only a small part of the twisting force, leaving more of the force behind. Jia Yan's speed at this time was actually extremely fast, but he couldn't even feel it in the darkness. In addition to the loss of my feet, the trauma on my body was also shaken several times by the Domain Master's biological brainwave power. I guess I also suffered some internal injuries. If I want to repair it now, I can only find a power like the Star Core to allow me to repair it. Fix it yourself. In silence, Jia Yan began to think about the future. It is definitely not possible to stay in this star field, because this is the opponent's home base. I have killed an interstellar galaxy creature from the opponent, and even attracted the territory lord to attack me personally. I guess they still dare to stay after they know that I am here. They will definitely appear to surround and kill me in an instant. A gentleman does not stand behind a dangerous wall. Jia Yan does not think that he can hide from the enemy's intelligence system. What's more, he was actually not familiar with this starry sky at all. Even the lingua franca of the universe is a little different. The conversation just now was actually mainly due to the power of the strong brain waves. So the first point is to leave the star field. Anyway, my advancement speed is fast enough, so it won't waste much time. As for the second point, there needs to be a place where you can get the star core. If you can't buy it, you can get it yourself. In that case, the range of choices is narrowed, because getting it yourself means destroying the planet. This kind of behavior offends people. This means that I have to find some weaker places, otherwise I will go to a place where there is a domain lord, and I don't know how to die. Jia Yan analyzed it for a while and came up with another rule that must be followed. Armed with these two basic principles, he called Edisha. After a while, a small light and shadow mosquito flew in front of Jia Yan's eyes. Because it is only light and shadow energy, there is no possibility of it being completely wiped out by the power of subspace. Master, what do you want me to do? Edisha was laughing and joking, with a voice like a little girl's, which was quite cute. Help me open the map and attach a map of the distribution of the strength of the strong men around here. Okay, but the information on this starry sky is from a long, long time ago. There may be major changes, so you have to make your own decisions. The Edissa opened a huge map shadow. To be honest, the shadow was so big that Jia Yan thought he was in a huge room. Unfortunately, it was just a shadow. What was more in front of him was the endless twisted darkness. This technology is really good. If I hadn't missed my age, I would have wanted you to play a game for me, haha. Yes, master, I have a lot of games here, all from the perspective of an anthropomorphic person, and there are also games from the Earth. They are quite fun. Forget it, next time, I'm not in that mood right now. Jia Yan shook his head and rejected Edisha's proposal. He wasn't in the mood. The map was displayed in front of him, and Jia Yan saw a small dot in the map, moving at an alarming speed. This is where he is. Jia Yan felt that having an Edissa there helped a lot. He could even roughly calculate his current speed. This is the star field where the main existence of the turtle zone is located. It is said that his strength is very terrifying. Jia Yan looked at the map and first determined what star field he was in now. Although the map is very old, it was also obtained from the Queen of the Zerg. The blank period lasted for about 200 years. It is very likely that the Turtle Territory Lord was still ruling here. In other words, the one he just encountered, that Territory Lord creature, should be Guixia. The surrounding area is incredible. In almost every star field, there are Domain Lord creatures, and most of them even have two Domain Lords. But some of them must have changed. In 200 years, the possibility of change is very high. Jia Yan looked around and found that there were Domain Lord creatures almost everywhere in the starry sky. You know, this situation is almost impossible in the Orion Arm or the Zerg territory. Because although the surrounding star field in the Orion Arm looks quite powerful, it is still thousands of miles away from here, which is close to the central region of the Milky Way. And here, the galaxy-level existence seems to be dense to an exaggerated level. Although there are relatively few Domain Lords, they are enough to fill this starry sky. There is almost no starry sky without a Territory Lord. At least it is under the control of a Territory Lord creature. And very close to here, about 2,000 light-years away, is the Milky Way central star field, where Jia Yan and the others have gone through all kinds of hardships and are preparing to go. There is a plan for this central star field, which is that the area with a radius of 10,000 light-years is the central star field, and the real center is the place with the most stars around the super black hole of the Milky Way. The power there must be extremely violent. Every once in a while, there will be collisions between planets, swallowing, black holes wandering, energy absorption, etc. It can be said that it is extremely chaotic. But the more places like that, the more opportunities there are. It is precisely because of this that the real masters of the galaxy go there to practice and understand the power of the universe. However, that place is not Jia Yan's target for the time being, and he will not go there in the short term. The Zerg Queen has no intention of developing there for the time being. It's good here. This place feels pretty good. Suddenly, Jia Yan discovered an unattended area on the map that was connected between the two star fields. That area is a black area between two adjacent star fields. The nominal name on the map is an unnamed no-no zone. As for what the characteristics are, what are the strong ones, etc., this is not so detailed. After all, this is only a map from 200 years ago, and many of it is not detailed enough. Jia Yan just wanted to try his luck there. If there is a strong person, then leave. If there is no domain lord creature, even if there is a mid-level galaxy existence, he will have to touch it, because going to other places will definitely be more difficult than here. At least in this kind of place, no one cares about it. Where did the territory lord come from? The territory lord creature must be upright and upright to challenge some weak territory lords, instead of being willing to stay in a small no-nonsense zone, right? Of course, at this point, Jia Yan doesn't quite understand the powerful man in this starry sky. There are too many domain lords here, and there will always be some domain lord creatures from outside or other domain lords who have dethroned the throne. So where will they go? Many of them really go to such dark areas, and the surrounding domain lord creatures will not easily provoke them just because they exist in these places. After all, if they lose, they will also lose their own star domain. Of course, that being said, whether there is such a domain lord creature in the area where Jia Yan is going is another matter. Because after many domain owners fail, 90% of the time they still choose to go to the center of the galaxy to see if there is any chance of a breakthrough. After choosing a place, Jia Yan turned around on the flying Edissa and moved quickly in that direction. This distance is only about 300 light-years. Haha, it's quite close. But such a short distance is actually separated by several domain lord domains. If you look outside, it's just one Orion Arm star domain. There are actually so many territory lords in such a big place. Jia Yan sighed as he felt the Edissa turn its head. There are really many domain owners. But the density of domain lords does not mean that there are too few galaxies under their control. This place is only a few thousand light-years away from the center of the Milky Way. The attraction of the huge black hole has caused stars to gather here. Everything around you is full of stars. Every territory occupied by the domain master creatures is almost larger than that of Orion. There are many stars in the arm, and not just a little more, but many times as many, 10 times as many. This resource is incredible. Jia Yan lamented that there are so many stars in this starry sky, and because the stars are active, there is a lot of unique energy and a huge amount of materials here. Super cultivation materials that cannot be found in the outside world are also available. Become more. This is also the reason why there are more domain owners here. Even a place like this is like this, so wouldn't it be true that the place defined as the central star field of the Milky Way is full of treasures wherever you go? Thinking of these, Jia Yan was a little yearning. But don't think so much. What I have to do now is to repair it. After the repair and mutation are successful, I can continue to enter the real center of the galaxy. He told himself not to think so much. Anyway, the central star field was in front of him, so there was no need to rush. Deep in the subspace, Jia Yan was thinking wildly while carrying the Edissa forward. He thought about a lot of things and pointed on the map. Of course, because these ideas were all based on old maps and there was very little information, he did not know whether they were correct or not, so it still had to depend on the actual situation in the future. Finally, I don't know how many days have passed. Jia Yan heard Edisha's reminder. Master, we are here. Huh? Are you here yet? The giant mosquito's compound eyes lit up slightly.